Drew.
It is Drew back there.
Well, it's Drew right there.
Drew and his son.
Oh,
Is Drew's son ready to go?
welcome, Drew.
Okay.
son.
Oh, very nice, thank you.
All right, let's do this. All right. Would everyone please join me in the pledge of allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank everybody for coming tonight. I understand it was a little difficult to get a parking spot outside. Crowded building today. So we do have quite a bit on the agenda. We have minutes to approve from regular and special meetings. We will follow that with community relations, announcements, and open forum. We have one item under appointments and resignations, and that is the appointment of our student select person for this coming year. We have several scheduled appointments, welcoming the school superintendent, 2 poll hearings, 2 Chapter 61 releases, DPW superintendent appointment, and a refuse service item. That will be followed by 4 items under new business, disclosure, request to declare surplus vehicles, an alcoholic beverage license request, and a update, I believe, on the malware. 3 items under old business, the special town meeting warrant with motions, a project update, and we will discuss really more of an update from me to the board on the current status of the interim town administrator and search committee and what their steps will be, followed by any BoS committee reports. Policy review, we have 1, which is lowering of the flags. That will be followed by the TA's report. Any other business unknown at the time of posting. And I will say now that our, no, that's spam. Our special town meeting will be Tuesday, October 8th, 2019, with a pre-meeting at 6 p.m., followed by town meeting at 7 p.m. There will be a BoS special meeting. That will be Tuesday, October 15th at 6:30 p.m., and another regular meeting Tuesday, October 22nd at 6:30 p.m. I believe the board will be going into executive session today, and then we will come out of executive session to conduct any necessary votes if needed and to adjourn the meeting. The first item on the agenda then will be the special meeting of August 27th.
Through the chair,
Mr. McGrath.
I make a motion to approve the August 27th meeting minutes as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair abstains, motion passes unanimously. The next item would be, I'm getting to it. Quite a lengthy one.
Actually, David?
Yes.
That one, it shouldn't be that lengthy. It's on page 5.
All right, the 17th. I must have missed one.
Yeah. Let's see.
August 27th.
That's the regular
Yep,
meeting.
the regular meeting
Regular
now.
meeting.
Oh, gotcha, yep. Then the minutes of the regular meeting, August 27th.
Through the chair,
Mr. McGrath.
I make a motion that we approve the regular meeting minutes for August 27th as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. Now we get to the next one, which would be the minutes of the special meeting from September 10th, 2019.
I was absent.
I'd like to make a motion to approve as written.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
1 abstention.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 4 in favor, 1 abstention. We move on to the minutes of the regular meeting, Tuesday, September 10th.
Motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I changed my aye to an abstain. I wasn't there.
All right. Chair votes aye. Motion carries 4 in favor, 1 abstention. I believe that was it.
Yep.
The next item will be community relations announcements in open forum. We do have several announcements. From the town clerk, if you have received a violation for failure to license your dog or dogs this year, payment is now due. Any questions, please contact the town clerk's office at 508-248-2249. From the cemetery department, the Charlton Cemetery Department will begin its annual fall cleanup on Monday, October 7th, 2019. All flower pots and decorations must be removed before this date. Any items left behind will be removed and discarded by cemetery department personnel. Seasonal items may be replaced on grave lots after November 11th, 2019. Household hazardous waste and electronics collection. Saturday, September 28th, 2019, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Casella Waste Services Facility, 165 Barefoot Road. Proof of residency will be required. Recycle your old fridge or freezer without lifting a finger. National Grid will pick up your fridge or freezer at no cost, recycle it responsibly, and send you $100. This is a limited time offer. It's available through September 30th. You can schedule a pickup by calling 1-877-889-4761. We also have an announcement, regarding the Charlton Flu Clinic. Get your flu shot here Wednesday, October 9th, 2019, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Charlton Senior Center, 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass. Please make sure to have all of your insurance cards with you. No insurance, no problem. Nobody will be refused a flu shot. That is the last announcement. Is there anyone here for open forum?
Good evening. Mike Sullivan, 58 Freeman Road. Recently, I dropped off a report to the Civilian Traffic Commission. I wasn't sure that was the proper forum, but I received no reply. I left it in care of Mike McGrath. And what it has to do with, it's two things. One is very important because, in fact, it's become more urgent. At the intersection of Route 20 and Masonic Hill Road, you have the Sunoco station there, which is Honey Farms number 88. That's their store number. And when people exit from there are three ways to exit. There's only supposed to be two. One is to go out onto Route 20 directly. You can turn right or left. The other way is to go on to Masonic Hill Road, and it's a right turn only up Masonic Hill. But there's another exit, and it goes straight out diagonally, right through all the lights. You're not subject to any traffic controls, and you can shoot right onto Route 20 going east and not violate anything, because there's no sign saying, do not enter, keep right here. It's missing, and I've seen two people do it right in the middle of traffic, and it's like, oh my God, I thought they were gonna die. One was a woman, like there was no traffic going on, but if you look at it and you consider it, there's four ways for a head-on collision, and there's three ways for a side swipe. And I pointed this out to an officer one day, and I told him, look at this, there's nothing here, there's nothing that said don't exit there, and you can shoot right out, and you don't see either lights or any stop signs. Next time you're there, you look at that. But I gave you a copy of the report that I gave to them. I took pictures and I drew arrows, so it should be very clear. I'm not sure whose responsibility it is. It could be the property owners, which would be Honey Farms number 88, right? Or it could be, and obviously the town could have an input into it. But it is a very dangerous situation, and I saw it happen again 2 days ago. I was sitting there and I saw a guy shoot right out. See, people come from out of town, they're not familiar with it. We would never do that, but, you know.
I'm pretty sure I know exactly the curb cut you're
So
talking about.
that was really my concern, and I wanted to address that. I didn't want to wait another day.
No, I appreciate it. I will defer to the board. My initial impression would be your first course of action was correct. the Traffic Commission. And the second person I would have turned to would be our Highway Superintendent, Mr. Foskett. And
Maybe-
correct me if
So,
I'm wrong.
through the chair, that I believe there should be several signs there. One probably by the property owner when the planning board did their site plan review. The other one is through District 3 for the island, the banana island that's there. I believe, chances are what happened is there was a sign there at one time and somebody ran it over and it's
Took it
never
out.
been replaced. So the first place I would stop is, or maybe the board should suggest to the town administrator to contact District 3 and ask them to look at the signage that belongs on Masonic Hill Road. They'll look at everything. They'll look at the do not enter, the one-way, because I believe there's all supposed to be a one-way down there on both sides. And the island, I believe, requires a do not enter. So
Right,
they can look at the plan and
You're
they'll
right, it
have
would be one,
fixed.
because it actually is, you can enter that way.
Yeah.
And that's not a problem when you've got the right on, you've got the green light to go into that chute there.
Yeah.
And as long, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. No, Ms. Sullivan, please, go ahead.
There is a second item on that copy to the, I wasn't sure, traffic, civilian traffic, is it really, well, I don't know if that was the right place to give it to them, but I also noticed recently that there's a plan that the state has for every town, which is planning for natural disasters and various things. And I was reading that, and I noticed that the Charlton Housing Authority, which I sit on, it has us listed in an odd way, and I realized the reason for it. There are two streets in town with the same name, which is Meadowview Drive. You have Meadowview Drive, Meadowview, one word, going through the Housing Authority. Then you have Meadowview Drive, two words, capital V, which is the circular drive in front of the Masonic Hill home. And when someone does a GPS, people have been getting misdirected. And even though it's right across the street from, it's going to be our new town service center there, emergency center, still there's a possibility for error in emergency vehicles or planning and so on and so forth. So that needs to be corrected. And of course, I'm biased because I think, we have residents down on Meadowview Drive and that's their mailing address. I doubt if Masonic Hill Home uses Meadowview Drive as a mailing address, so I would suggest we try to get them to change the name of their street.
Mr. Borowski, you had a comment?
Yeah, just very briefly, Ms. Sullivan. Oddly, I happened to be at the commission's meeting.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so they actually discussed your letter in detail.
Oh, good.
And I think
I'm aware of that.
one of the takeaways on the sign was, I believe they were going to reach out to Randy Benson in the planning department to see if there's any other, basically sign conditions within the initial approval. So I think we can, probably just follow up with them and see where that part is. And they also did discuss the, two naming pieces and.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think
Well,
that the idea was that they were going to, in a sense, defer to the Board of Selectmen to basically find out, A, if the one up on Overlook is a true street. And if it's not, is there a way to, let's just say, ask them nicely to consider renaming it?
Yes, oh, that's very good. And I didn't mean to jump over the commission's work.
Oh, no.
But especially after that, since I gave that, I saw a second example of someone shooting out there, and I just cannot hold back on that one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mr. McGrath?
Through the chair, I believe that you hit the nail on the head. One, the Masonic Home Meadowview Road or Meadowview Drive is for internal circulation. It's not a town-owned street. It's not our property. I don't know if they had it on the plan when they did their site plan, because chances are we would have brought it up and said, probably not a good idea. So really, the only legal street in the town is the one for the housing for the elderly.
But the fact that it appears on that emergency planning thing shows that it's in the state database that way. And it's also in Google Maps and GPS that way. So, anyway.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if we need a formal motion, but, I mean, I'd like to, in a sense, make a motion that we contact our friends over at Overlook and find out whether or not they would be amenable to potentially just changing their name somehow to remove any confusion whatsoever. And if they say no, to Selectman McGrath's point, there's not a lot we can do, but I think if we can just extend an olive branch saying that it may be causing confusion.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that?
No?
Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Ms. Craver, could you please reach out to Masonic?
I can, yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you kindly.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Is there anyone else here for open forum? No, just me. Okay.
Oh, dear.
Oh, are you really?
I'll never do it from up here.
Oh, I thought you were kidding.
No, I'm serious. Nothing scary, I promise.
Do we have to recognize you?
Coming out with this a little early
Vice
this
Chair
year.
can recognize.
Can you please state your name and address?
David Singer, 2 Keeley Drive, Charlton, coming out with this a little early this year. Many of you know historically, and I've actually lost count how many years my kids have done this, but they raise donations, toys, crafts, whatnot, for the children at UMass Medical's Child Life Services, which is a level 1 pediatric trauma unit. It is the only level 1 pediatric trauma unit in all of central Massachusetts. That means this is where the sickest and most seriously injured children go. What Child Life Services does is at holiday time, they will build an entire Christmas or holiday village. And this enables these kids to experience some sense of normalcy, have some downtime with their families, maybe put a little smile on their face while they're undergoing everything that they're dealing with. I understand there are a lot of charities people can donate to, and I will use one. Perfect example, Toys for Tots, great charity. But a lot of these charities, when you donate, what you donate doesn't necessarily stay within our community, or even Massachusetts for that matter. Once it goes in the system, it could be in North Carolina. The wonderful thing about this charity is it is our community. They serve Central Mass, the children of Central Mass, including Charlton and our neighbors. That being said, I have a letter, again, from Child Life Services confirming Via and Eliana are working on this on their behalf. I will provide this to the town. I will tell you, we have already reached out to Shepherd Hill, the police department, and the fire department. The police department has already confirmed they will be working with us to raise donations. We have not heard back from the fire department yet. I am asking this board's permission if we could also perhaps put a box somewhere here in Town Hall on the website that we will be accepting donations. The only thing that cannot be taken are things with hair or fur. Anything that could carry in dander or germs into the pediatric trauma unit is not allowed, but certainly games, crafts, electronics, anything of those, and we can provide their ideas in this letter, I'll provide to the town as well. So I would ask your support or your vote to allow us to put a donation box in Town Hall to help raise toys for these children.
Do we need a motion for that?
So moved.
Nobody's supposed
Second.
Any other discussion? Thank you, David. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Chair votes aye. It's unanimous. Thank you for bringing that up
Give you a
every
copy
year.
of
We
the letter
appreciate
from
it.
Child Life Services.
It's a great opportunity.
And thank your daughters for us, too.
Yeah, actually, absolutely.
Here's a copy of the letter.
Do you want this? Thank
Sorry, did anyone have any questions? I can go back down. But thank you to
you. And I
everyone.
think I still have the pictures from last year.
I think,
We posted them on social media. No, it's getting this
now,
stuff.
to answer your question. Yeah, so I think there were pictures posted from last year of the delivery. I know that when this started out, I think they came in with like 25 toys, and it's just grown to the point where we had to bring in like 2 cars. I think one of the last times we made a delivery of the last 2, I think one was like 100, and I think one was close to 250 pieces that were donated by our community members.
Thank
Did
you.
it get any like media coverage when you did it? Like did someone write
Nope.
about it?
Nope, it's
Okay.
just done for the children.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Now, I can give this up. So we will then move on, so appointments. We have Oh, one appointment. And that would be the Student Select Person, 2019-20 school year. Ms. Craver,
Yes, sir. I'm very happy to state that we have attached a letter from Bill Chaplin, our principal at Shepherd Hill Regional High School, asking the board to accept again grade 12 student Anna Grundowski as a non-voting student representative for the 2019-2020 school year. She was the student representative for the last 2 years and did a wonderful job, and I would recommend that the board make the appointment.
So
thank you,
moved.
Ms. Craver, and
So
thank you,
moved.
Anya.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any comments from Anya?
What's
I'd
up,
love
guys?
to put you on the spot.
Hello. Just want to say I love doing it. I'm sad that it's my last year, but there's definitely stuff in the works. I will be having a meeting with Mr. Chaplin for Principals Advisory October 2nd, and at that meeting, we will be determining a shadow/replacement for this year. Any meetings I cannot go and attend this year, Board of Selectmen meetings, that person will come, and I will train them in carrying on the Mocktown meeting legacy.
That is awesome, and I think based upon Anya's experience here, we'll have to have a conversation about adding a position, so we have a student select person and a college student select person. So we're just gonna keep you coming back forever.
I thought the
And
next
then you gotta
step
run
is
for
to get her
office
up
and sit here.
as
I was
office.
gonna say, she
She can run now.
You could run, yeah. Are you
Yes,
18
you
yet?
Get your,
Okay.
get your degree
Not
first.
yet.
Not yet, she can't run yet.
I'm a young one.
No.
Soon.
Yep.
Through the chair,
Ms. Noble.
I would just like to commend Anya for mentoring someone. I think that's a huge step in your life, and you're going to get a lot out of it as much as they do.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions for Ms. Grondowski?
Welcome back.
We have to vote?
I think so.
Okay, we have to vote.
We have the motion in a second.
So,
That's what's left. You
all
are
those in
right.
favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Crickets. Chair votes aye. Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously.
Come back.
Welcome
Come
back.
sit up here.
I just love that you've been here longer than I have.
Good one.
Me too, Bill.
Smooth.
So, wow, a lot of spam calls tonight. All right. First scheduled appointment, 6:45 PM. Welcome Superintendent Stephen LaMarche, DCRSD. Ms. Craver?
Yes, actually, I would like to skip doing my memo, and I would like to ask Anya if she'd like to introduce superintendent, our new superintendent.
All right. Newly appointed Superintendent Stephen LaMarche from the Dudley Charlton Regional School District has asked to be placed on tonight's agenda to introduce himself to the board. We have scheduled him for 6:45 PM, and I would like to congratulate him and welcome him. Mr. LaMarche and I actually had a meeting today, and he's going to talk a little bit about, I think, hopefully, this council that we formed at Shepherd Hill, and he is very into emotional intelligence and is a great, very open guy. So I hope you guys are excited to meet him.
Thanks,
Thank
Anya.
you.
Great to see you again.
Welcome.
Board of Selectmen, thank you for welcoming me to your meeting this evening. You have an incredible job as a local representative, and all the work that you do for this community. It's absolutely incredible, so thank you for the work that you do. I hope this is one of many meetings that I attend here, meaning that I'm here for a long time. But I also want to be part of what Charlton does and what Charlton is doing and what they're, I'm a vigorous reader, so I'm not coming in uninformed as to the things that are going on in the community of Charlton. But I also have a lot to learn as well. I have rolled out what I call a studied introduction for my role here in Dudley Charlton in the school system, and it's really, I'm on a growth plane right now to really try to understand everything that I possibly can. I've sent it out to the parents looking for feedback on a number of things that we need to work on within the Dudley Charlton Regional School District. One of the things I did want to clue you in on is that the Mass School Building Authority did come and visit our district. They did a senior study site visit. That does not mean that we were invited into their program. It is quite an extensive process if you're invited into their program. They came and met with us for an hour to talk about the Shepherd Hill Regional High School and what would possibly be next, and then they took a lengthy tour of the entire facility as well. I want to go on the record already as the superintendent and be very daring and bold and let you know that from my perspective already and from working with MSBA and the individuals within the district, that at best we would be looking at a renovation project for Shepherd Hill High School. All of you, if you've studied some of the cost factors that are out there about a raise and rebuild, you're talking about $200 million facilities. That's not what we're looking for. Shepherd Hill is a very good facility, and it has a lot going for it. There are some things that need to be addressed, though, and could be addressed through the MSBA program, the Mass School Building Authority, which would be, number one, ADA compliance. Number two would be some learning spaces that are more appropriate for the 21st century. And then school security would also be another one that we would certainly take a look at for a renovation project. But I want to go on the record and be bold and say that we are not looking for a brand-new facility there. We would be looking for a renovation project. In addition, the MSBA already gave us a hint that our reimbursement rate would be roughly 59 to 60 cents on the dollar, is what they've already indicated for us as a district at this point in time. There is the possibility of having lead points or more points added on to that to bring it over 60 cents on the dollar, but that's the preliminary number that was given to us. If, and again, if we're invited into their program, which we have not been invited into the program, we won't know until December of this school year. Coming from a district, I just completed a school building project. If you were to go onto MSBA's website, you would see that it was one of the lowest cost per square foot facilities built in a decade through the MSBA program, something I'm very proud of. There's a place for conservatism when it comes to building schools or renovating schools. I just want to go on the record about that. Anya did a very good job. We started what was originally the superintendent's advisory council. We changed the name today as a group. It's called the DCLC, which is Dudley Charlton Leadership Council. We thought that the acronym was a little bit better, a little more user-friendly, and we're looking forward to doing some work. It's a very powerful group of students from all grades. We're recruiting some freshman students at this time, and we're really looking for an opportunity to make a difference for Shepherd Hill or within Dudley Charlton. Again, I'm here at your mercy at times because I work for the Dudley Charlton Regional School District, but I really want to be a very strong supporter of the community of Charlton as well as the community of Dudley. And again, you have important work ahead of you, and whatever I can do, whenever I can do it, please reach out, feel free to reach out to me and ask for my support, ask for my help. I know, again, I'm a vigorous reader. I know there's a lot going on. I don't want to get in the way of the heavy lifts that you have in front of you at this current time. I am supported by Kenny Lafayette, who's a school committee member in the back, in case people don't know who he is. Again, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. For point of reference, I was born in Worcester, Massachusetts. I lived in Oxford for a very short time, and I grew up in Holden, Massachusetts. So I'm a central Mass person, and in essence, I'm coming home. I met my wife in Webster, Massachusetts, when I was teaching in Webster. We got married in Webster. We have two children, a 13-year-old, 10-year-old. They were both baptized in Webster. It's like coming home in a very strong way for me. And I have to say, growing up, living in Oxford for a little while, and then Holden, we always had family friends in the Charlton area, and I have to say, from my perspective, Charlton is not the Charlton that I grew up with. It has changed immensely, and again, you have a lot of work ahead of you and a lot of things that are going on that are really fantastic for this community, and again, a lot of heavy lifts as well in front of you, so I really appreciate your time this evening.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. LaMarche?
Just thank you for taking the
Yeah.
time to join us this evening.
Through the chair?
Oh.
Thank you. These 3 points, the ADA compliance, the learning spaces, and the security,
Yep.
if you don't mind, can you just make sure you keep us apprised of what's going on with this MSBA program? Do I have that correct? And what does that acronym stand for?
Sorry.
As this moves forward? I know, I can't speak for the rest of the board, but I know that these are all 3 very important topics I'm sure we're all very interested and supportive of. But what does MSBA stand for? Some people might not know, like me.
Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to reinforce what you're asking for, it's not that we don't have a choice, but we would need to be partners through the entire process. And we would work
Absolutely.
together, and you would be fully informed of what if we're invited into the MSBA, Mass School Building Authority program, it automatically builds in a relationship with you. It's nothing we would do in isolation.
It's not just that we should be informed. I think we all ought to roll up our sleeves and help out.
Great, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Mr. Borowski.
Thank you. So, Mr. Marsh, first off, thank you very much for coming in. I've heard nothing but great things happening.
There's still time, so.
I was going to say, I mean, honestly, they say that about our meeting, and by 7:30, it all goes down. Just as a challenge to you and for our friends on the school committee, I know historically that there have been, let's say, ad hoc meetings between all the different boards, whether it be, obviously, our colleagues on the Dudley Board of Selectmen, along with ourselves, and, FinCom, et cetera. Personally, I would love to see more of those, because you're right, with the amount of, let's just say, capital requests that will be coming, I think the more communication that we have, and the more often that we can have it, I think the better off that will be. So I'm not saying necessarily it has to be a, quarterly or even, type of thing, but to truly get something so that we're communicating much better.
Great, I really appreciate that, and just to inform you, working with the school committee, we did form what is titled the Capital Outlay Committee for our district, so that we can really take a look at what the capital needs are and come up with an actually long-term plan. Obviously, capital outlay and capital planning is very costly, but it is needed at times, but prioritizing it is a huge benefit to everyone, because then you can have a better plan as to, how you would support that.
Exactly. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
If I could also add, welcome, but I also want to let the board know that superintendent came to our department head meeting and sat through the whole thing after introductions, and we were very pleased that he held an interest in what was happening in the departments and wanted to be part of the community. So we welcomed him to attend any ones that he wants and to work with us as a partner.
Excellent.
Great.
Through the chair. Welcome, and I echo the other comments that the Board of Selectmen have made. You come in a line of school superintendents who have done a very good job over there, and I'm sure that the school committee has vetted you properly, and that they are very happy to have you over there. It sounds like you have a lot of very good ideas, and you're being very engaging with the student population, the townspeople, and the town leaders in both towns. I'll speak for myself. I value the school system very, very much. All of my children went to school, kindergarten through 12th grade there. They received a great education. The townspeople have stepped up once again to do a 2.5 override, which had never happened in this town's history. And I think that shows you the dedication that the townspeople have towards the school system. And I look forward to hearing nothing but good things over there. So welcome.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And again, we will come forward in being very thoughtful, and again, I come from a very conservative background, so I like to be conservative, and if we do something, there has to be a reason for it. And trade-offs are an important part of anything that you're doing as well. You can't always you can't just keep asking year after year for more. You have to evaluate what's working, what's not working, and move from there, so.
Very good.
Okay?
Excellent.
No, I do feel bad, because I feel like I was set up a little bit, Robin. But I was going to excuse myself after this introduction. I know you said that I stayed at the other meeting and I wasn't tuned. And
We won't say that ours is
leave,
more interesting.
The Catholic guilt I'm going to have.
It's okay, we'll make a public note of the time you walk out.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you very
But I
much.
really have a lot of respect for you having a student on your board. I think that's not a norm in our state, and I just think that that's an incredible decision and appointment for you, and for Anya to bring back to us, the school system as well. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Good night.
We'll move on then to our next scheduled appointment. That would be our 7 PM poll hearing, Turner Road, install one ISO pole. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. Attached, you'll find a request from National Grid seeking to install one SO pole on Turner Road. Also attached is the notice that was sent to abutters. This request has been forwarded and approved by both the Chief of Police and DPW Superintendent. No comments or concerns were received. The chairman should read the open the public hearing by reading the notice as sent to the abutters.
Thank you. Public hearing notice, this was sent out September 17th, 2019. The Charlton Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, September 24th, 2019, at 7 PM in the Selectmen's Meeting Room, 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass. 01507, to act on a request from National Grid seeking permission to locate poles, wires, fixtures, including the necessary anchors, guys, and other sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across the following public way or ways. Turner Road. National Grid to install one SO pole on Turner Road beginning at a point approximately 2,000 feet northeast of the center line of the intersection of Richardson's Corner Road and Turner Road. National Grid to install one stub pole across the road from existing P9 on Turner Road. Nearest addresses are 32 Turner Road and 40 Turner Road. Stub pole will replace a span guide to tree existing in field today. New pole is required for long-term reliability. Anyone wishing to be heard on this matter should appear on the date and time specified or submit concerns in writing. And I will declare the poll hearing open. 7:10. Is there anyone? Yeah.
Mark Tapley, National Grid.
Thank you.
Yeah, the pole is just to support a structure, is to replace a guide that's inside of a tree currently. So we'd be removing the guide from the tree, placing a pole, so that way it's not moving up and down.
Gotcha. Any questions or any comments regarding this?
The last time that we had a poll hearing, I made a joke, and it turned into a thing, so I'm staying quiet.
So I looked at you. Like,
So,
Through the chair,
Mr. McGrath.
I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
A motion and a second to close the hearing. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Through the chair,
Mr. McGrath.
I make a motion that we approve the poll request for Turner Road as explained in the public hearing notice.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Move on to our 7:05 poll hearing. Partridge Hill Road, relocate IJO pole. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. Attached, you'll find a request from National Grid and Verizon New England Incorporated seeking to relocate one JO pole on Partridge Hill Road. Also attached is the notice that was sent to the abutters. This request has been forwarded and approved by both the Chief of Police and the DPW Superintendent. No comments or concerns have been received. The chairman should open the public hearing by reading the notice as sent to the abutters.
Thank you, Ms. Craver. Public hearing notice, same, September 17th. The Charlton Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, September 24th, 2019, at 7:05 p.m. in the Selectmen's Meeting Room, 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass. 01507, to act on a request from National Grid and Verizon New England, Inc., seeking permission to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures, along and across the following public way. Partridge Hill Road, National Grid to relocate one JO pole on Partridge Hill Road beginning at a point approximately 3,850 feet south of the center line of the intersection of Oxford Road and continuing approximately 20 feet in a west direction. National Grid to relocate P16 Partridge Hill Road approximately 15 feet north of its current location. Riser down approximately 20 feet to fiberglass pad. Anyone wishing to be heard on this matter should appear on the date and time specified or submit concerns in writing. And we'll declare this hearing open.
So once again, Mark Tapley, National Grid. So this is it's to move one pole, so someone can do or a customer can do an underground service. And then there is the guy pole as well.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the board or anyone for the hearing? Yeah. Will you sit down if you would, please give your name and address at the mic? Yes, thank you. See, you had to go and say something. I don't know why.
Hi, Michelle McAvee. I'm at 78 Partridge Hill Road. Just a quick question, and probably for you because you know the spot. So that's my property, and so I know that the pole is literally just moving over, right? Mm-hmm. But my question is, the guide that was given is clear on like just moving it, but what does it mean by the fiberglass pad and like fixtures and all this stuff?
From my understanding of it, there is going to be a transformer pad down that driveway. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be coming down that's why it's going over towards their driveway. So when the wires come down, it's gonna go down that riser that's on there. The wire's gonna come down their driveway and go to a transformer that's on the ground.
Okay, so the wires are gonna be exposed, or?
They're gonna be underground.
Oh, they're,
Yeah,
okay.
they come down a pipe, and then when we bring it up the pipe after the electrician, we put a cover over the pipe all the way up to the top of the pole,
Okay,
and then those wires stay underground all the way to a transformer. And then they come out of that transformer, they go underground to the person's house.
okay, so it won't affect, like, because currently the wires like come over my driveway, like to my house for like power. None of that will be affected,
No,
or,
no.
okay. All right, that's all that's happening.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
If you have any questions, I can answer about that.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? There's one in the back. Yeah, if you would, please, thank you.
So I am Gregory Frew, 80 Partridge Hill Road. And now I see in looking at the plans that some of it is subject to kind of actually doing it and seeing what's possible. I see that this is dated March 30th. So based on your current information that you're working with, are you anticipating that this is going to move forward as outlined in the plan?
As far as I know, yes.
And then as a follow-up question, everything obviously is different. In similar jobs, typically how long does this process take to complete?
That all depends on what information the customer has provided to us, if they've completed their easement documents, if they've made all of their payments. It all depends on where they've fallen in line, and then it will actually go to scheduling once everything that the customer needs to do, after the design is done, goes through. So this is part of the design process. So once this is done, it all depends on, if other boxes are checked off in a timely fashion.
Okay. And with like the actual construction, the actual kind of building, is that something where you could give an estimate as
I
to how-
don't know.
Okay.
As designers, there are two things they don't allow us to talk about, and that's price and schedule,
Okay. Well,
unfortunately.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Lauren. Thank you very much.
Are there any other comments or questions from anyone for the hearing?
No. Through the chair.
Mr.
I
McGrath?
make a motion that we close the public hearing on the pole relocation.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously. The hearing is now closed at 7:16 PM.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion that we approve the JO pole location as outlined in the public hearing document for Partridge Hill Road.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who came thank you to everyone who came to ask questions as well. Ms. Craver, 7:10 PM, Chapter 61, release King Road.
Yes, sir. Attached is a request from James McLaughlin, Commissioner, on behalf of Donna Bigelow, Diane Sullivan, James DeBay, Barbara Carmen, and Richard DeBay, to sell 20.62 acres, Lot 79-C-4, King Road, to Tracy Manning of 90 Claybrook Road, Dover, Mass. The Planning Board, Board of Assessors, Conservation Commission, and Water Sewer Commission have all reviewed the request and have no objection to the town choosing not to exercise their right of first refusal for this request. The chairman should open the public hearing by reading the attached public notice. Hearing notice, I would recommend the board approve this request.
You gotta read
The
the
notice.
Questions?
No, you gotta read the
Oh, you
public
read
hearing.
it.
Public hearing notice.
Okay, it was on this one. Please be advised that the Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing. We're getting so many of these today. On Tuesday, February 4th at 7:10 PM at Charlton Town Hall, 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass. 01507, to act on a request by James A. McLaughlin, Commissioner, on behalf of Donna Bigelow, Diane Sullivan, James Daubney, Barbara Carmen, and Richard Daubney, to sell 20.62 acres, Lot 79-C-4, King Road, to Tracy Mannion of 90 Claybrook Road, Dover, Mass. Who will change the use from Chapter 61B recreational Chapter 61A agricultural. Anyone interested should appear at the time and date specified or submit concerns in writing. And I will declare this hearing open at 7:19 PM. Thank you. Would you state?
Good evening. I'm James McLaughlin. I represent the owners of the property, and we're asking that the town make a decision as to whether to exercise their rights of first refusal.
Any comments or questions from the board? Nope. Hearing none.
No.
Make a motion to close the hearing?
Yeah, is there anybody else that wants to speak? Nope. I make motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that the Board of Selectmen not exercise their right of first refusal for this request.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
And I want to thank Mary Devlin and Attorney Cosgrove for their help.
We'll pass it along, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They're awesome.
Okay.
Okay, next one.
Would you like me to?
I'm almost there. I'm almost there. Still not there.
Page 76.
By the way, in case people wonder what we do up here, we have literally 180 pages of information, so instead of printing them out, we just put them in a PDF. So what we actually do is literally flip through on our screen, so.
That's why we're going like this.
Yeah. We're not all in, well, actually, never mind, I won't say
We get
that.
so much we go home and go like this now.
Yeah.
So, 7:15 PM, Chapter 61 release, Sturbridge Road. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. Attached is a request from the attorney on behalf of the Kozlowski Family Realty Trust to remove and sell 36.23 acres of land from Chapter 61A located on Sturbridge Road, 32-B-4 to Landro Realty LLC, 129 Sturbridge Road, Charlton, Mass. The Planning Board, Board of Assessors, Conservation Commission, and Water Sewer Commission have all reviewed the request and have no objection to the town choosing not to exercise your right of first refusal for this request. The chairman should open the public hearing by reading the attached public hearing notice, and I would recommend that the board approve the request.
Thank you. Public hearing notice. Please be advised that the Charlton Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, September 24th, 2019, at 7:15 PM at the Charlton Town Hall, 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass. 01507, to act on a request by Attorney Paul Kolesnikovis on behalf of Kozlowski Family Realty Trust, Kenneth P. Kozlowski, trustee, to remove and sell 36.23 acres of land from Chapter 61A located on Sturbridge Road, Assessors Map 32B-4 to Landro Realty LLC, 129 Sturbridge Road, Charlton, Mass. Anyone interested should appear at the date and time specified or submit concerns in writing, and we'll declare this hearing open at 7:21 PM. If you
Yes,
would.
good evening, Mr. Chairman, Board. Attorney Paul Kolesnikovis, I represent the Kozlowski Family Realty Trust, Kenneth Kozlowski trustee. A package has been submitted in accordance with Chapter 61A, and we're requesting that the town basically exercise will not exercise their first option of refusal onto this property. It is a property that is going to ultimately be developed by Treehouse Brewery, is Landau Realty Trust. And I believe, again, I also want to thank the assistance of Mary and Attorney Cosgrove on this. They've been very helpful to bring us through. I also have prepared a notice of non-exercise that I can give to Mary so that if the board doesn't have their own forms, we could either utilize that.
That's actually not.
I'll take it.
Yeah, that's actually a reporter. You don't want to give her any.
I didn't even look over, I mean, I just thought she was sitting there.
So, yeah, I went there. It's okay, we loved it. Thank you, Mr. Klesnikovis. So are there any comments or questions from the board? If not, is there anyone here with any comments or questions?
Hi, Kim Blinsky, Treehouse and Manager Realty. Just wanted to say
If
thank
you
you to.
would, at
oh,
the
sorry.
mic, please, thank you.
We just wanted to say thank you to all of the boards, Conservation, the Assessor, Planning, everyone, and especially Mary. She dealt with a lot of stuff between us and the cyber attack and everything, and, we know that it was a high priority, and she understood that. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of you in the town that worked with us in getting this to this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from anyone here on this hearing?
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion that we do not, that the Board of Selectmen and the town do not exercise their right of first refusal for Chapter 61A on Sturbridge Road as described in the public hearing.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Paul.
We will move on, we're actually pretty close. Our next scheduled
Catching up.
appointment, 7:20 PM, DPW Superintendent. I can talk today. DPW Superintendent, Assistant Working Foreman's job description. Ms. Craver?
Yes,
If you
sir.
would.
DPW Superintendent Jerry Foskett is requesting, here he is, a full-time assistant working foreman position to be utilized again for more effective highway operations. This position is in the union, and the rate of pay is in the contract as $30.93 an hour. The position would be posted internally only for promotional opportunity, and the open position that it leaves would not be backfilled. The financial impact will be the difference in pay between whomever is hired for the position and this rate of pay. The job description will need to be presented to the highway union for a revision acceptance discussion, impact bargaining process before it is posted, should the board approve the position to move forward. DPW Superintendent Foskett is here to answer any questions the board may have. And Jessica is also here from HR.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
Jerry, what was this, Jimmy's position?
No, actually, that's the foreman's position, that's outside of the union.
Okay.
This would be a union position. It's actually evolved because of my job has evolved into much more time in the town hall with the committees and boards and other responsibilities. So basically, I don't think the oversight in the field is being handled well enough. That's not criticizing my help or staff in any way. They're the best staff anyone could have. But beyond that, every group needs someone that's gonna give the answers. So that's really what it's all about. It's not a major change in the department, it's just somebody's gotta take the responsibility out there, and that's what it comes down to.
So we won't know, though, the difference, or the financial impact, until you make a determination of who might fill that role, and then know what the current rate is.
That's correct. Jessica does have some numbers, if you wanna hear the numbers.
Yeah, I'm curious, because for me, and I believe in the need, for me, my difficulty is blindly approving a position without knowing what the financial impact would be to the community.
Fair enough.
And through the chair, if I may, I know we have our finance director here. I would like to bring her up to the table, too, so we could get the input from all three. Is that all right?
If she
Because
has-
she's our numbers
if she
person.
has the-
I think
Well,
Jessica may have the
If she,
answer.
if she has the, if she doesn't have the answer, sure.
Well, she's
Whoever has the
comments.
answer.
Okay. You can come up.
She's welcome to come up.
It's up to you. If you have anything to add, just please add it, that's all.
Jessica, do you have the
Okay.
numbers?
So, we had mentioned that this position is $30.93 an hour. Our heavy equipment operator position is 29, I believe 29.40. The mechanic position is $28.95. Along with the medium equipment operator, they're paid the same, and the light equipment operator is $25.77. So, the difference in the pay, on a weekly basis, on the low end is $61.20, and on the high end is $206.40. And if we figure that the person starts around, say, October 28th, that's 35 weeks left in the fiscal year. So on the low end would be $2,142 for the rest of the fiscal year. And on the high end would be $7,224.
7,000 what?
224.
So that's for a fiscal year. What would it be for a complete year?
So.
Because whatever we do, we may only have a partial year, but once that year is over,
Yep.
it's going to now be a higher cost on a yearly basis. What's that cost going to be?
I did it quick in my head. I think it ranges between 3K on lower and potentially 10K
So
annualized. But I could be wrong.
it's
Oh, I think, I
So
just
it's-
did my calculator, it was around 3K on the lower end as well for a full year.
3,195 on the low end. And times 206.4 and 10,774 on the high end.
Have you talked to FinCom?
No, but I'm a little taken back on that number, but I'm looking at $1.50 an hour increase roughly. I mean, we're talking $60
For
a
a,
week.
for a heavy, yep.
Yeah, so.
So that's
So-
like $3,000.
Yeah, $3,000 annualized.
That's a full year's worth, $3,000. I mean, not that $3,000 isn't a lot of money. I do have it in the budget this year because of, one of my employees who's out on workman's comp for the past 2 months and probably the rest of the year, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I think what's important is for you folks to maybe look at the fact, I'm not looking to establish another position. This position was a union position for years.
Okay.
I never filled it, I didn't feel a need for it. I feel a need for it now. I think it's very important for the operation, it allows me to do my job. If I have to be out there in the field, I just worry about selling what I can do for the town in this town hall. And that's become a big part of my job.
It has, yeah.
So I think it's, I just want to point that out. Maybe I don't need to, but $3,000 a year, and feel confident that that's getting done out in the field, which I would feel much better.
It also builds succession planning into the department, for the future,
Jerry said he's not going anywhere.
so.
You haven't talked to him. That's good. So, thank you.
Succession planning takes years. And it also is a growth opportunity for the department, for them to have another level to grow into and have a mentoring opportunity for that person for the rest of the department as well. So that's invaluable.
Mr. McGrath?
I just want to say kudos to Jessica and Jerry for coming before the board with this. I think that it would be penny wise and pound foolish on our part to not do this. People do need direct supervision, especially in some of the work that we do on the side of the road. You know, that what people neglect to remember is that the DPW is a public safety department also, because of the work that they do on the roadways. They're in the roadways more than some of our first responders. And on some of the roads that we have, even though you have a good setup and everything, you do need another set of eyes taking a look at it and, you know, just to keep people safe, never mind the actual work that's being done. So I think that it would be an excellent thing on our part to approve this.
So we would be looking for two votes and approvals from you. One would be to approve the position to be filled, and the second would be to approve the job description to be, for them to have. I would recommend that you approve Jessica and Jerry to meet with the union to impact bargain any issues they may have regarding any changes in the job description.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath.
No, please.
I make, we never fight, we last. I make a motion that we approve filling the assistant foreman's position.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Very quickly, through the chair, just as a reminder to those folks at home especially, this is really a promotional position. We're not backfilling. I know we mentioned it, but I want to make sure everyone's clear. This is not an incremental increase to the staff, so just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. But with that, yeah, I'm good.
Is there any other discussion, comments, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously.
And through the chair.
Mr. McGrath.
I make a motion that we have Superintendent Foskett and Jessica from Lawrence from HR do the impact bargaining with the Highway Department union for any changes that have to be made to the job description.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? No, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you again for all the
Thanks,
good
sir.
work.
Thanks,
Thank
Sherry.
you, thank you for being
Thank
so
you.
forward-thinking.
I appreciate it.
So, if we can, we could do the 7:40, we're 5 minutes early, or we could go to the first item of new business, unless Mr. Peak is here.
Is he here?
Yep.
He's here.
Do you mind if we take you a few minutes early? So we'll move on to our last scheduled appointment, which is refuse service. Mr. Peak?
So, Mr. Chair, Joe Peak from Sunset Drive has asked for time on tonight's agenda to discuss the topic of refuge service. At Glen Echo Association meeting, they discussed the merits of having one refuge service, and for those at home, refuge service means trash pickup, on one day a week versus several on all days, weekdays. The benefits would include less wear and tear on the road, safer roads with less frequent roadside containers, truck traffic stopping and going, easier, safer, and better snow removal, significant improvement in community aesthetics, and positive impact on selling and value of homes and improved aesthetics. I did refer him to the Board of Health, who referred him back to the board to have a discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Peak. Did you want to make any comments before I ask the board if they have any?
Okay, sure. When we discussed it at the Glen Echo Lake Association, and we did discuss it over, I think it's 2 or 3 meetings, we went over the benefits that you mentioned, including the less wear and tear of the roads, safer roads with less frequent trash containers on the road, and the stop and start of heavy trucks. And also the potential for savings that the residents possibly could enjoy, just the economies of scale that one hauler might have. We also had quite a bit of discussion on potential objections and possible solutions. Some people would prefer to deal directly with their garbage as opposed to hiring for the service. We would suggest in that case that a tax credit be given to those people that might opt out. There might be a concern that once a contract was given, subsequent years, the rates would go up. Here we would suggest in the RFP bidding process that you look for a 3-year with maybe an annual rate cap. Another concern would be being dependent on one hauler, and if something were to happen with that hauler, and then the town would have a number of issues to deal with. I've been told that performance bonds are common for trash haulers with municipal contracts. This would allow monies for the hauler to meet their obligation or money for the town to replace that hauler. There would also no doubt be concern about increased taxes to include the refuse service, but it would seem as though with the dropping of the charge individual residents in the town enjoying the economies of scale of a hauler, the net cost to the resident would be less. In addition, I would think the town would save on the less wear and tear on the roads, the more efficient snow removal, and the better safety. It seems, I guess in summary, that one hauler once a week for several, on several days, is kind of an easy and immediate fix to take care of a problem that I think most would agree is a negative about our communities. I think it's noted that how often that the trucks are traveling and that the roads are lined with trash containers almost every day of the week. And having one hauler, one day a week would economically benefit residents as well as the overall aesthetics and safety, and as I mentioned. So we respectfully ask the Board of Selectmen to give this idea full consideration.
So if I may, I'll put out a little history for some of the board members who may not have been here for a while, some haven't, and probably know where I'm going with this. But just from a historical perspective, number one, I appreciate what you've done, and anytime any individual or group is concerned enough to get involved and try and better the community, it's a wonderful thing. That being said, a little history as well. This has come before the town on more than one occasion. Every time it's come before the town, it's lost by an overwhelming majority. This wasn't even close. The taxpayers have shot it down repeatedly. That being said, a little insight, I think, I actually used to work for one of those haulers. And it's a common misconception. I don't now, so I can say this flat out. If you remove the majority of the haulers from the road and go to only one hauler, you're not going to see a reduction in traffic or days. Because our town is so large and there are so many homes, those trucks are going to have to be effectively replaced by that single hauler. There's no also way, it's physically impossible, that hauler could then do the entire town in one day. So effectively, maybe you lose one or two trucks, it's a minimal impact. You're still going to see the trucks on the road multiple days a week. It would just be one hauler. That's an unfortunate reality. Cost, and you had some very valid points. So I'm just giving you the history on the other side. Cost is absolutely a concern and a question. When you, as we've seen already, we've entered into agreements in the past with Casella where they gave us discounted rates for Charlton residents, which made it much more affordable as opposed to competitive haulers. Some people still chose not to go with that hauler because sometimes, to your point, it is about cost. Sometimes it's about quality of service. And one thing I do know and have seen myself is that the quality of service from one hauler to the next, it runs the gamut from excellent service to poor service. And when you eliminate the competition, and this is my own view, you tie everyone into one hauler that may or may not be the best as far as service. I can tell you from also working in the industry, the different driver, the different day, the different truck, and the drivers change. Some are very courteous, some are messy. Some drivers will stop, they'll flip a dumpster, they'll flip a bucket, stuff will blow out into the street, they just drive away. Other drivers will get out, stop, pick it up. And a lot of that also varies by hauler. You could wind up getting a hauler in this town that may come in and they're the lowest bidder, but we're not going to see a reduction in traffic or days. But they may be the lowest bidder, but not the best quality of service. Perfect example. I know one hauler in particular, I'm not going to give any names, who if they ever spill anything, their drivers, every single one of them are trained. You stop that truck, you pick up every piece, you put it back in. That's part of their job. They're fired if they don't. But I can guarantee you they also won't be the cheapest. So there's going to be give and take. Any other comments on the board?
Go ahead, Karen.
It's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, so, nope, you go first.
As far as the individual streets, though, it would seem you could get down to one hauler one day a week on any given street. Now, on any given street, you have 3 or 4 haulers any given day of the week. And I would think, as far as the bidding process, it would not necessarily have to be just the lowest bidder. All these other considerations could come into play as well on whatever point system that you might use in an interview process.
And I'm sure they could address it as well. So certainly you don't necessarily have to always take the lowest bidder if there are mitigating factors, and they would have to be significant, I think, to warrant the town purposely taking a higher bidder. So I'm not saying that's not possible. At one point, you are absolutely correct about, if I have 10 houses on the street and the truck has to tip 5 buckets versus 10, it would be much more efficient for that truck to hit the street and have one truck hit all 10. However, that's why I said, you might see some impact on the number of trucks, but it's going to be minimal because the town is so large and there are so many streets. Even if they're picking up a few extra buckets here or there, in the grand scheme of things, I think that from an actual truck on the road perspective, I don't think you would actually see a visible, tangible difference. Also, the distance to the dump and the transfer station has a great impact as well. So for example, Casella just moved their transfer station on 56. So for them to only have to drive from Carlton to 56, you can almost guarantee they should, based upon their business model, have a lower rate because they only have to drive to 56 to dump all the buckets. All the competitive haulers may have to go further, or they could make an arrangement with Casella to use their transfer station. But the problem is now Casella charges them a fee, which they have to pass on to us. So to use the closer transfer station, it now costs them more, meaning we already know automatically, I mean, for all intents and purposes, who the lowest bidder will be before we even open up any bids. Just how that works.
So through the chair, I too want to thank you for bringing this to our attention, and I really want to thank you for offering solutions as well.
Absolutely.
And to Chairman Singer's comments, do we know when the last time that this was brought up? Was it a citizens petition or was it the group? I thought we had an environmental group committee that.
We can check. It was within the last 5 years.
So-
I think it was
3 to
about
5
5
years.
years.
So one option would be that it could be brought up again, but again, we don't know if it's probably, we don't know the outcome of the vote. It may be not passed, but that is an option. Another thought, and I want to add, I've been on the roads over there, and around the lakes, the roads are so narrow that literally trash trucks coming down, you have to back up on those roads, which is very dangerous. Did you ever consider, or your group ever consider, doing something on the micro level, meaning in just your neighborhood, trying to get the buy-in from people on the streets so you have one hauler? You know, and then,
We
I
did,
don't,
we
yeah?
talked to 3 of the primary haulers, and the problem was that they wanted us to accept the bill and have to deal with any shortcomings from residents, and we did not want to get in a collection situation.
So one of you would have to pay the bill for the whole street, basically?
I don't think so.
Or is that what it is? You collect from everyone and then they bill one person?
Yeah, or what, yeah, into the association, and we just did not want to get involved with being a collection agency.
Gotcha, okay.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath.
I want to echo Karen's sentiments. First of all, thanks for coming, to the meeting with this. And second, I absolutely can understand. The roads over there are beat up, they're narrow, and you have probably at least five different trash haulers going around there on different days. So I think it's really magnified what the problem is in that community over there, and probably the same thing over at Salt Charlton Reservoir, and any of the real old narrow streets that we have, down by 10 Schoolhouse Road, Ayers Road, all in and around there. We could probably try and put it, just mentioning to the board, put it back on the Springtown meeting and see what happens. But I believe I can refer to that as the third rail here. It has been soundly defeated before, even with the cognitive arguments that you've given.
And soundly defeated for what reason? The increased tax that might be offset by?
Well, I think, through the chair, I believe it's a couple of things. I believe that there's a lot of people that own, not a lot, but some people own their own businesses. They just take the trash right to the dumpster themselves. Other people have, they would rather just negotiate with their own trash hauler. But I think it's almost, some of the comments I've heard when this have come up before were impinging upon them, their freedom of choice. And I think the money was, maybe a second or a third, but I think number one was they didn't like us telling them, well, I wasn't even on the board at the time, but they didn't like anybody telling them on how they were gonna get rid of their trash.
So I think, Mr. McGrath, that certainly was some of the arguments heard. Others were cost. There were others that frankly didn't care about cost. They were very unhappy with one particular hauler, even though they were the cheapest. They chose to negotiate a discounted rate, still higher, but had the ability to negotiate a discounted rate with another hauler that gave them a much higher quality of service and did more for them. So they wanted that freedom of choice. Ms. Craver, you have a comment?
I just have two comments, and thank you. It's people like you coming forward that make changes in town and bring issues up. One of the possibilities you may do is, if Mr. Peak has an interest in doing it, is to appoint a committee to take a look at that and come back with information for the Maytown meeting. I don't think we know, and I know that there's not been any studies on road miles and what would that be creating a reduction. One thing that has changed since the last 5 years or to 7 years that this has come up has been you have become a green communities community. And, you know, part of your policy is to search for ways to reduce carbon footprint.
Yep.
And I think that there's a lot of people in Charlton who may now start to weigh freedom of choice versus trying to work with the environment. So I think that there may be a reason to bring it back and to take a look at it and to actually do scientific change, research as to what impact that might have, having 4 haulers going crisscrossing back and forth beside, instead of one that just goes up and down and you don't have all of the crisscrossing.
So just to that point, if I may, understanding how the trucks work is not just a question of road miles. The truck can only hold so much volume. So if that truck hits 10 houses on one street, that truck is now actually filled twice as fast. And now it's also leaving town and back in town, leaving town, back in town twice as often. So
All I'm saying
I
is
appreciate that. It's
there's
just-
not been any studies on, is
Correct.
it a little bit or is it a lot? of
Correct, it's just
reduction?
clarifying a lot of misconceptions, though. And again, having worked in that industry, I can tell you it's not as big a difference as you're expecting it would be. Now, I'm not opposed to people want to pursue it and looking into it, that's fine. And again, I appreciate your involvement, because if it wasn't people like you doing stuff like this, you know, that's what makes everything happen, so.
And my one other comment is, if you were able to get everyone together to check on 3 haulers, one of the things you may still be able to do without even negotiating with the hauler is if all of you on one street or one neighborhood just agree to take a look at what the lowest price is, and then everybody freely choose to switch over. So that's another option that you have.
That's a good idea, too.
You don't necessarily have to have the operator help you. But what you can do is, if you say, this neighborhood of 24 houses, we're looking for the lowest price, and we've seen that the lowest price is here, you know, can you do anything for us if we all switch over? Without that commitment as a group, you may be able to negotiate something and find a discount. Oftentimes, if you just ask, you can get that.
Yeah, they may be happy to say, if you guarantee us this many houses, sure.
Okay.
They might give you a better rate and also happen to suit your neighborhood one. Mr. Barras?
So, Mr. Peak, again, obviously, thank you for doing this. What I struggle with, just to be candid, is many citizens in the past have asked this board and others to pursue either it be regionalization of services, purchasing power, et cetera, or basic aggregation, things like this. However, I balance that with what our town's, let's just say, peculiar and conservative streak. And that's the tough balance for me, because on paper, what you're asking for is absolutely rational and reasonable. What it goes up against, though, is the fact that in many votes in town, that when it comes to anything that removes choice, it's basically a lightning rod for controversy. And I just don't know what the potential success of this is. And quite honestly, we'll be going through a period of transition over the next few months. So I don't know how many town resources that we could, in good faith, put at this. Now, again, I love the idea around, but, potentially forming, some type of committee to bring forth on that, but then obviously it needs volunteers people to do whatever. So if that's something that you'd like to pursue, I mean, I'm fully on board with that. And to actually have, a true proposal that we can then review and discuss, and even potentially do a non-binding referendum at town meeting to say, so should we pursue this or not? So maybe not even necessarily do like a full proposal, but rather just say, is this something that you would like to pursue? So it's just some different ideas, because again, what you're saying makes sense. I just know that with our notorious conservative streak on certain things, that this would be a very hard sell. Not impossible, but hard. Yeah.
All right, well, I thank you all for giving it some consideration, hopefully more. And look forward to hearing back from you.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Mr.
Thank you.
Seriously, thank you for coming.
Thank you. And if you would, let us know. I'd like to know if you do, if your street reaches out to see about getting a discounted rate for the whole street, if they work with you. I'd be interested to know.
Here's just copies of this.
Okay.
Thanks again, Mr.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm sure all my progressive friends will now yell at me after the meeting for saying that our town has a conservative streak.
Again, thank you, Mr. Peak, thank you for this.
Sorry.
Sorry, right on, it's okay. We will move on then to our first item under new business. Number one, disclosure filed by Nancy Shields as required by GLC 268A, number 19, section 19. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. Attached is a disclosure form submitted by Nancy Shields, Administrative Assistant for the Building Inspectional Services Department, for the board's approval. Ms. Shields is disclosing that Michael Barch of K&M Designs LLC, a regular user of the department's services, has inquired regarding property she has for sale in Connecticut. She has directed him to a real estate agent representing the property and informed him that she cannot discuss it with him to avoid the appearance of any impropriety. She has 3 house lots at $60,000 each. I would recommend the board approve the disclosure form as submitted.
Through the chair.
Mr. Boraski?
First off, I want to commend Ms. Shields, because for those, again, at home and in the audience, this is exactly what people are supposed to do. You fill out a form, you disclose it to everyone, and you kind of wash your hands of it at that point, but everyone knows about it, so there's never any cries of lack of transparency, et cetera. So a kudos to Nancy. And then, that being said, I'd like to make the motion that we approve the disclosure form as submitted.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? No, hearing those, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda, number 2, request to declare vehicles and equipment as surplus. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. In this memo, you'll find 3 requests from police, fire, and highway departments to declare vehicles and equipment as surplus. I would recommend the board approve the requests.
Through the chair, unless you want me to read all of these, I make a motion that we approve those vehicles from highway, fire, and police to be declared as vehicles and equipment as surplus.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Through the chair.
Ms. Noble?
A couple weeks ago, we had a joint meeting with FinCom, and I do remember the police chief talking about these 4 vehicles. Well, he talked about vehicles that needed replacing, but these seem to have much higher mileage than the ones he was talking about. So I'm wondering, are these the ones that they're using for parts, or are these something else?
I wonder if these are through the chair, I wonder if these are some of the detail vehicles, potentially?
Maybe. I just don't remember him bringing these up at the meeting.
Through the chair. I believe these are the vehicles that he's been using that specific for the police chief. I believe these are the vehicles he's been using for parts. The one with the blown motor specifically.
Yeah.
And the rest of them he's been using them for detail. The two best ones he's been using for details.
Okay.
the problem with just looking at the mileage on these things,
Oh, my God.
that's nothing compared to the hours, okay? That's the problem with a lot of municipal vehicles,
Yeah,
especially
I
police
know
and
that.
fire. So it's, the mileage might look, at 123,000 miles or 135,000 miles. It's the hours, the runtime on the engine.
Okay.
Right, they never turn them off.
No.
That's true.
So one officer sits in it, then when they change shifts, they get out and another one gets in.
I understand all that. I just wondered because the ones that were brought up at that meeting were not these and they had lower mileage. So I just wanted to know where these had come from. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments from the board? No? Any
I'll make a
request for
motion.
action?
Oh,
I think
sorry.
Okay.
we have a motion
No,
and a
we
second
did.
already.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it? All
We
right.
just need to vote.
Yeah,
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
there we go.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously. And forgive me, we went on, I forgot we even had that.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Number 3, special alcoholic beverage license request for the Overlook Masonic Home Fall Festival. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. Attached is a request from the Overlook Community Masonic Healthcare Systems of Massachusetts seeking a special alcohol beverage license for wine and malt beverages to be used on Saturday, October 5th, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at 88 Masonic Home Road for a fall festival. This request has been forwarded and approved by the Building Commissioner, Fire Department, and Police Department with the following stipulations. The Fire Department's stipulation is a crowd manager, 2 fire extinguishers, and 3 marked egress. Police had none, and the Building Commissioner stipulations is any temporary tent-like structures will need a building permit with an inspection October 5th in the afternoon, at which time they will need to be 80% complete with setup. Any of the temporary tent-like structures with a capacity of more than 50 persons will have a minimum of 2 exits, 60 inches or more in width, with defined aisles to the exits. The applicant should provide a plan showing the size, dimensions, and material used to delineate the beer serving and consumption area. And lastly, the beer serving consumption area needs to be delineated with the barriers of at least 48 inches tall with controlled entrances. Per the board's policy, the license, if the day requested is approved, should be issued for 2 additional days for the following reasons. October 4th, to allow delivery of alcohol to the establishment. No sales would be allowed then. October 5th, for use on the approved date and time as listed. And October 6th, to allow for pickup of any unused alcohol. No sales would be allowed. These dates would be reflected on the license. I would recommend the board approve the special license as requested.
So moved.
Second, third.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously. Number 4, malicious malware. Ms. Craver?
Yes, I'm going to ask Donna and Deb to come up. They're here to provide an update on the malicious malware attack. Donna has been working with the insurance company. Donna, Deb, and I, along with Kara, had a phone conference with the insurance company today. And she has a report on where we are. There's been a lot of work done to get us back up and running, and I do want to say a big thank you to the staff that came in over Labor Day. They've been working very hard, and I think you can feel very comfortable about the staff that you have here.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I think that something has been left out here. Ms. Craver was on vacation the week that we were doing a lot of this stuff, and she took a lot of time out of her vacation to talk with staff, to send emails to staff, to check up on everything that was going on, and to make sure that we were apprised of what was going on. So for that, I'd like to give the town administrator kudos for what she did while she was on vacation.
Well done, Rob.
Thank you, Ms. Craver.
Thank you.
And the rest of the staff also. Thank you, guys.
I'm just going to provide you a summary update of the malicious malware attack on August 30th, 2019. The attack was discovered by the police department in the early morning hours of August 30th, 2019, and immediately reported to Micronet, the town's outside consultant for IT services. Micronet was able to shut down the servers, at which time the attack was terminated. The FBI was contacted, and the attacker was identified as a group known to the FBI, and that their MO was to encrypt data, not take data, and to make a request for ransom, which once paid, an encryption key would be provided to the town. Micronet began rebuilding service and restoring data. 3 weeks after the attack, of the 17 departments, 14 departments are caught up from any downtime and any reentry of data that may have been necessary. 2 departments are back up on the computers and are in the process of reentering data. 1 department is still in the process of having their software brought back up online and has not yet been determined how much data will need to be reentered. Emails during that time the email server was shut down do not appear to have come back, so they would not have been received by their intended recipient. The website was not affected. Online collections were not affected, as that's completed by a third party, and any software that was in the cloud was not affected. The town is still in the restoration and recovery phase of this process. Once the town is out of that phase, it will enter a review and prevention phase based on what we've learned from the cyber attack. The town recognizes that it is not possible to prevent every cyber attack, but wants to develop and implement a plan to ensure a faster recovery in the event of a future attack. The town is currently working with the insurance company, who is providing assistance from a cyber specialist. And several municipalities were hit in Massachusetts and many other levels of government, as well as the private sector, have been hit across the country in the last 6 months. It has become the new norm and is now when, not if, you will be attacked. That's all I have.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board or comments?
No, nice job.
Just thank you.
Through the chair.
Ms. Noble?
I guess, will we be discussing next steps during our executive session?
Yes, we'll be discussing some more
Good.
other things around cybersecurity.
Thank you.
But we felt it was important to have this conversation in open session so we could let the residents know where we were and the status of the incident and what happened.
Okay.
And
Thank
for
you.
those who don't know, Debbie is the chair.
Sorry. Yes, hi, Deborah Ciccarini. I've chaired the Technology Committee since its inception, really. And I also have to echo John, Robin, thank you, and the tremendous staff that we have here over a holiday weekend. It was amazing what has happened then and since. I think every department, every staff has chipped in, and Donna's absolutely right. You know, we're on our way to recovery, and I don't think we missed too many beats with this, considering what I've heard from my own software vendor and what my association has told me. We are incredibly lucky, and we're, you know, pretty prepared in short order. So.
Well done.
Thank you.
I don't think I can disclose that.
We're not talking about that at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Donna.
And just to tell everybody, I was here that weekend. I had come here to unlock the door for somebody that had an event going on, because it was during the Old Home Day weekend, which also went off without a hitch in spite of this ransomware attack. When I came here, our IT person, Jeff, was here, and he'd been here. He was here all weekend. He gave up his holiday weekend. But all the activities went on that weekend, and nobody knew, and it didn't cause any problems because of the amazing staff we have here at the town.
Thank you, Deb.
You're welcome.
That said, we'll move on to business. The first item, Ms. Craver, is special town meeting warrant with motion.
Yes, sir. At your last meeting, you approved the special town meeting warrant for posting with the town clerk. Tonight, you are asked to review the motions as presented and change any that you would like to make. Lucas Stevens is here from the Recreation Commission, as well as Todd Gerard, Conservation Agent. He will here to present any questions you have to the board regarding the Maynard field improvements. So other than that, if you'd like, I'd like to go through them, get your votes for support or not support, or make an adjustment on the motions. So under Article 1, there are 2 unpaid bills. It's an appropriation of funds for unpaid bills of a prior fiscal year. One is to B&H Photo Video for video equipment in the amount of $499, and Viola Waterworks Sewer Maintenance for $5,488.09.
Motion to support the motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Article 2, intra-departmental transfers and/or appropriations for the FY 2020 budget. And I'm not going to read through all of them. I know that you went through them in depth at your joint meeting with the Finance Committee.
I make a motion that we support Article 2.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh,
Sorry, thank you.
Mhm.
Just an FYI on, at our last meeting, I'm sorry,
Could you just-
Joe Spivak.
thank you. And with
Fine-
the
FinCom?
Finance Committee?
Finance Committee, acting chair as Mr. Kamasi was out of town. At our last Finance Committee meeting on Wednesday, we added 2 line items to the Article 2 motion. And I don't know if they're there. Are they there? Okay. So just
Thank you
making
for pointing that out. They are the last 2.
The last
And
2 are
actually,
added.
instead of having, we were planning on having monies coming from contract obligations. I believe the Finance Committee wanted to somewhat protect that a little bit more, and we have 2 retirements. So we will be taking $13,000 out of police, adding it into police wages, and $8,000 into the Council on Aging.
Both from free cash.
Yes,
Both
sir.
from free cash.
So
Great.
we've adjusted the free cash. Thank you, Joe.
Sure. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. Is there any other comments or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously.
Article 3 is an amendment to the FY 2020 budget. It's in the amount of $90,000. And it is changing from, we had, in the original budget message, we had $90,000 coming from cable. That contract is not complete yet, so we are changing that to raise and appropriate.
Motion to support?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously.
Okay, the next one is capital items and related contracts. And I'll just read quickly what these are so people at home will know. Highway is 2 Sanders for new trucks. Another highway is for a Ford F-350 dump truck. Police is 3 cruisers. Technology Committee, upgrade and replacement. Cemetery, replace the ZTR mower with collection system. Cemetery, replace north side cemetery wall. Conservation Commission, engineering services, dam-related requirements, Phase 1 inspections, emergency actions for the town clerk, electric voting system, and also book and journal repairs and binding for the town clerk.
All of these items will also be coming from free cash.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Boraski?
Just a quick thing, again, for those at home. There's an item on here that will, I'm sure, have a lot of discussion at town meeting. It's around an electronic voting system to be used at town meeting. So instead of having roll call votes, et cetera, literally you'd be pressing a button. And instead, it's been a very contentious issue so far. Personally, I support it. I know lots of people who don't. So in case you have questions around, obviously reach out to members of the board or whomever, but that's going to be I guarantee this is going to turn into a big discussion point at town meeting. But that being said, motion to, I'm sorry, Robert.
And if I may add, following up on that, it's good for people to remember that each of these are voted as an individual, so any citizen can stand up and ask to remove or hold. If people know that, once this is out and in the public and people see something that they might like to hold, I would recommend that you contact the moderator, Linda Denault, and at least give her a heads up of your intention. It just helps to go smoothly.
That's a very good point.
I think based upon Mr. Borowski's comments, it would probably behoove us to have someone there who could speak to the benefits of an electronic voting system so that questions could be answered, or pros and cons could be stated, or even on a handout prior, so that people will know before they vote what the strengths and weaknesses are of a system like this.
I will relay that to the town clerk. She will be there, so I imagine she will speak to it.
And through the chair, one could also watch our joint meeting, the FinCom Board of Select meeting, because we had a rather lengthy discussion about it, so.
So the public can do that as well.
Yes. That being, through the chair, that being said, motion to support as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously.
The next Article 5, Maynard Fields improvements, ADA requirements. This is a request to vote to appropriate $170,000 to pay the costs of making ADA improvements to the Maynard Fields. And I know that Lucas and Todd are here to answer any questions you have about that. And this would be a borrowing article, and it will be a 2/3 vote.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Do you guys have any questions for?
No, just a
Todd or
comment.
Lucas? Ms. Noble?
I'd just like to remind people that this is not something that we want to do, this is something that we have to do. Our recreational facilities must be ADA compliant, and now that we know that this one is not, we have a mandate to fix it. So it's just a matter of where the funding comes from. The project will likely start in the springtime.
Yes.
Correct.
Correct. But this is something that the town has to do.
Through the chair.
Mr. McGrath?
I believe we've been notified that by the state that we have to do this, correct? Okay, so it's not a mandate from anybody else, except we have to be in compliance, and the state has had complaints about it, and we now have to comply. They've sent us a letter stating you have to comply.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why this is on the warrant.
Thank you.
So,
100%.
so.
Are there any other comments or questions for these fine gentlemen?
Just one, I know that if we're making Maynard Fields ADA compliant, are we looking at the other recreational facilities in town as well?
That is a thought that has been in the back of my head for a couple of months now.
Okay.
Maynard Field is obviously our biggest offender and has received the complaints, and which is why the state is mandating that we fix it. Todd, I'm obviously not the engineer. I can refer any specific engineering concerns to Todd. Obviously, it's something in the back of my mind. Charlton is, in many of the discussions in areas of the town, you see that we're trying to play catch up, and that we're trying to have our facilities up to date. Where, for example, a certain unnamed recent building discussion. So it's something to be discussed in the future. That has been a thought that's been in the back of my mind. This is just, overall, my main concern has been hammering out this Maynard Field to get it into compliance. So that's been my main concern, but that's something that's been in the back of my mind as well.
Can we bring it to the forefront, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Perhaps get some sort of report on which recreational facilities are not compliant and what we'll need to do to fix them so that we can plan for the future, because this will be coming down the pike, I'm sure.
I believe I can add some light to Ms. Noble's question. I'm Todd Gerard, your conservation agent and stormwater coordinator. I used to be the recreation director. In our open space plan, we have a section for ADA self-evaluation. We just finished our plan last year. These complaints were noted in our 2010 ADA self-assessment. So if we open up our 2018 open space plan, you'll see under the ADA self-assessment, we do have some shortcomings, we're aware of them. We're gonna be bringing them up, or Recreation will bringing them up through the municipal building group.
Okay.
To further clarify, we just were not notified by ADA. We've had a hearing that I attended in Boston. We have obtained approved engineering plans from Burton Engineering. Those plans were submitted to the Department of ADA for approval to make sure that we're gonna check all the boxes, which they were. We have went out and got cost estimates today, so that's how we came up with this cost for you guys to look at this. So we're ready to move forward with this and expedite it for the summer. This is also a soccer football facility, so our goal is to have this running for around this time, soccer football season for next season.
Okay. Thank you very much for the clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if anyone has other, but I'd make a motion to support.
Second.
Yep.
We have a
Third.
Or,
We have multiple motions and seconds. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously.
Thanks, Luke. Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as being two graduates of the Dudley Charlton School System, we would like to also thank you guys for supporting our alumni. I think they did a pretty good job with me and Lucas. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
you.
Todd.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Lucas.
Next is Article 6, replace the fire engine 1. It's a borrowing article in the amount of $604,000.
Through the chair, motion to support.
Second.
People should be aware that this truck that we're trying to replace is 20-plus years old and is actually a liability on the town at this point. If something happens at a fire when this is in use, one of the first questions they're gonna ask is, so how old is that truck? And it actually causes us great liability.
and I believe we learned at that meeting that by the time the truck gets replaced, it will be close to 26 or 27
Yeah,
years old.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Because even though we appropriate the funds now, it takes that long to retrofit it, to fit our fire department facility.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Article 7, legal and consulting services. It's to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money from free cash to fund legal and consulting fees or take any other action. And it moves that the town vote to transfer and appropriate $300,000 from free cash to fund contract obligations to fund legal and consulting costs.
And just to clarify, contract obligations for those who are watching are so that we can pay the bills for contracts that are already signed and in play.
And I want to add that I believe at the end of, and I may need to change a little bit of this language, because I believe at the end of the meeting between the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee, you voted to, instead of moving it into contract obligations, you were going to have that as a standalone article. So I will find out if the Finance Director wants that as the name of it, or if we'll make it a legal services standalone. So I'll adjust that language. And certainly, generally, when you vote these, you vote it pending Cosgrove, and if there's any changes that need to happen before we print them.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, motion to support?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Through the chair, I just wanted to point out, I'm probably going to sound like a broken record, but we're speaking rather quickly about these motions tonight. But if you really want to learn, if you really want more information, I encourage you to watch the meeting that we had, the joint meeting, so the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee. And they can access that by going to our the town website. Is that correct? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now we got to vote. Do we vote?
We didn't vote yet.
We didn't vote. Thank you.
There's no other discussion? No other comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously.
Okay, the next one is Article 8, transfer to or from stabilizations. And you have 4 transfers here, so you'd have to your regular stabilization fund, $22,666,000 for the purpose of funding your stabilization according to the reserve policy. You would have the water stabilization in the amount of $20,436. It's moving money from water retained earnings into the water stabilization fund. You also have water stabilization fund transferring $3,455,814 $3,455,814.18 from the water RRFA for capital improvements or maintenance. And then you have sewer stabilization, transferring from retained earnings, $323,355.
Motion to support?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously.
Article 9 is to rescind the Potter Village bond authorization in the amount of $500,000. As you know, we received a grant, and again, good shout out to Jerry Foskett for that. So we will not be needing to borrow it.
Motion to support?
Second.
Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously.
Article 10 is a social media bylaw. And a copy of that bylaw is in the town clerk's office.
Motion to support?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on Article 10? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously.
Article 11 is a special act to remove the position of police chief from civil service.
Motion to support?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously.
Lastly, as there are no zoning articles, the last article is special act, remove the position of police lieutenant from civil service.
Motion to support?
Second.
We have a motion in 2 seconds. Any other comments or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Craver.
You're welcome.
Our second item on our new business is project update.
We're not gonna go through all this, are we?
No.
There's a lot.
No. At a previous workshop, I began to go through outstanding projects along with employees who will act as point people on the projects for you, and the incoming new town administrator. I have revised the list since then and would like the opportunity to go over it with you, although because of time constraints, I would prefer not to go over it with you at this point. The projects are broken down by category, such as the environment, land and building development, administration and finance issues, technology, personnel, goals and objectives, legal, town meeting, and committees you may wish to meet with. There are, just in case people at home think we are not doing anything, there's 153 projects and recommendations here with point people.
So
So that's all I have at this time, and if time permits, perhaps we'll have an opportunity before I leave.
So, yeah, so
Thank you for putting this together,
Yeah, that's
making
really
it so clear.
Yes.
It's
Too
so
much.
helpful.
You're welcome, and I'd like to thank all the department heads for working with me on this and stepping up. We took 2 department head meetings, went through the projects, had people sign on to be point people for you. So there's a lot going on, and maybe a third of it, maybe 2/3 could be put down as non-priority, but you've got about a third of this that are really high priority, things are moving, and you need to pay attention to.
Thank you so much.
So, thank you, and to Ms. Craver's point, I actually asked her not to go over all 100 plus. This is a public document, so this is accessible to anybody who wants it. We will see if we can get this on the website as well, and it's available to all of you. To Ms. Craver's point, this is a multi-hour document to go over, and the board will be meeting again on an off night to continue this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The last item under old business is interim town administrator, and it's actually, it actually should read interim town administrator TA search, I think, to be an accurate representation, and I'm just going to roll right into this since I've asked for this. More of an opportunity for you to update the members of the board as to what's going on, timeframes, and what their next steps should be. That is two parts to this. One is the interim, and one is the TA search process. So I wanted to make sure that everyone here was aware that we did open up and extend the opportunity for residents to email in. The board had already met with the consultant and had unanimously identified certain hopeful members. They also had to extend their interest as well, but they had to meet certain criteria. That being said, based upon unanimous vote from the members of the board and having them met the criteria, it was determined with the consultant that we need to have a certain number of people on this committee and to extend additional positions to the public to basically flesh out and expand this committee to a 9-member committee. That being said, we need 3, I believe at least 3, positions to be filled. These names have all been put into our office, and all of you are asked to go in and force rank based upon the criteria from the consultant. And keep in mind what the consultant specified as disqualifying factors. Of those that remain and are actually meet the criteria, force rank them 1 through 3. Then we'll take all the selectmen's force rankings, and they will be compiled. Those with the most 1 votes, 2 votes, 3 votes, et cetera, will be the citizens to be added to the committee. I'm asking all of you if you could please complete that by Friday, so that we can provide this list to the consultant, so that he can then get in touch with all of these residents and get that committee up and running.
So we can come to the town hall tomorrow and pick up that?
It is already ready, correct?
It's ready. Actually, I can email it out to you tonight.
Oh, email it would be wonderful.
Tell me your 1, 2, 3 names, and then we'll compile it for you.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
If that's
Sounds
easy.
good to me.
Thank you,
Yep.
thank you. And
Thank
then the
you
other
very
piece
much.
of this was regarding the TA search versus full-time interim, et cetera. And that is based upon conversations with the search consultant. You know, as much as we would have liked and have hoped to have had someone here by October 2nd, tries we might, even October 15th is not really realistic, nor is November 1. So, no, I'll go right to you. That being said, it is reasonable to expect this is going to go at minimum to November 1, December 1, realistically December 1 to December 15th, at least another 2 months out, 2 to 3 months out. So I wanted to make sure that you were apprised of that. You had a comment or question, Mr. Barras?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I thought you were, I'm sorry. I was just gonna start my speech.
Oh, no,
I can wait.
Do you
Go ahead,
want
I'm
me to
done.
read this or not?
Oh, yes,
What I
you-
had put together? Do you
Um,
have
What do you, I know
a
something
memo?
there. Hold on.
It's 155.
Sure. And then I might add a quick comment to that, but go ahead. Yes,
Okay.
please.
Per my conversation with the chairman last week, he informed me that the board planned to come back tonight to talk about how to proceed once my term ends on October 1st. Per his direction, I reached out to several retired managers to see if they would be available to serve for a short time while the board finishes up its search for a new TA, town administrator, if the board so chose. I forwarded you the names of available retired managers who have all served in the position of interim. I want to be very clear, the retired managers I spoke to know that the board has not made any decision on whether the board will seek an outside interim or appoint a present employee to fill in. If you wish to consider a retired manager, you could set up a meeting with each on the off night to interview, or you could even have them plus internal candidates to come and talk to you. See who seems like the right fit. I have no opinion either way, but I would caution you that using a present employee could, if you end up going out several times, like you did when I was hired, I think you were on your 3rd try, before me, taking several months you could put pressure on that employee because their own job doesn't get done. And I've seen that to the detriment of very willing, helpful employees in other towns. Another option could be to authorize Mary to work with the chairman and the departments. Remember, there's a lot of confidential information that comes through this office. Mary is the one who has done the interim before. She could do it again, plus she could get the new TA up and running without missing a beat because she would know what's going on. If you chose that route, I would recommend a moderate salary increase.
So, and just for clarification, I asked Ms. Craver to get names of select retired former town administrators, and to be perfectly clear, this board has made no decision. It may not even go outside. But I thought it behooved this board to know what all of its options were. So that being said, I'm sorry.
No, I cut you off, that's my fault.
So, Mr. Borowski?
So really, just to start the conversation, more than anything, just let me throw my, and I promise to make it brief for me, my thought process out there. So the first question I start to weigh is external versus internal. And I think we have a really nice problem here, meaning that we have some very, very talented and capable people right here at Town Hall. And I'm not gonna mention like all the people that I thought of because A, it'll take too long, and B, I don't want anyone to feel like they were excluded, because some people I thought, you know what, you'd be a great choice, but with town meeting coming up and everything else that's coming, I don't know how much of a backfill is really there, to Robin's point, that there's gonna be a lot of stress on this. So then but again, I weighed internal versus external, and personally, I think that there's at least a couple candidates internally that I would be happy to approach. The one that jumped out at me was Chief Maxfield. The reason being is that he has a command staff in place who can help with that type of work. So again, I'm not gonna mention all the other names, but if the chief were to do it, personally, I would be very pleased with that.
Through the chair?
Ms. Noble?
Has anyone approached the chief? Although I'm sure he understands that he would be an option. I am of the mindset that organizationally speaking, if we're talking about the town that way, that bringing in an interim is a very apolitical move. In other words, you're not showing favoritism to one employee over another, not that the chief wouldn't be absolutely qualified. And if I had to pick one internal candidate, that's the one. But, again, something that is apolitical. Just someone, and Mary is phenomenal, for lack of a better word. That woman is a treasure, and we are extraordinarily lucky to have her. If she was to fill in, or if she was to assist an interim, we would be in extraordinarily good hands.
So if, just on one of your points, so, I agree that going outside is apolitical.
Yep.
But I would think that even if we were to go that route, you still would have to have an interim inside.
That's what I'm saying.
To cover the period of time. And it's very possible, per our consultant, that we could have a full-time before. But if a certain period of time was met, whether it be 2 months or 3 months, and we didn't have a full-time, then I think the decision would have to be made during the negotiations with any department head, if they're in this role, that it's for a finite period of time, 2 months, 3 months, and then we're cutting the cord. And we will be going outside, and we'll know how we're progressing because we'll be in constant work with the consultants. Yeah.
Again, I hesitate to put a department head in this position at this point in time. If the town was in a different place, perhaps. But I don't think that it's a prudent move right now to do it. I really don't.
So I have a theoretical question for the whole board. If we had a department head who was thinking of putting their name in for the town administrator's permanent position, would that be a plus or a minus to have them be the, I'm just
Personally,
curious.
I would think it would be a minus, and the reason I say that is it puts them at It could potentially give them a distinct unfair advantage.
I don't know if it'd be unfair. I think it would, I'm just thinking. I didn't know.
Yeah. So through, if I may, through the chair.
Ms. Spiewak.
So I really want to talk a little bit about the process. First, what are our options? I think we really need to understand what all our options are. Robin, our town administrator, sent us several suggestions. We have names that were brought up tonight, and by the way, I'm hesitant to mention any names myself because I think until we know if people are interested, I really don't want to suggest, but I do have some names. And then the other option, I believe, is the search firm that we've hired, that maybe we can ask them for some suggestions, since, again, these are the people who are out there, and they this is what they do all the time, reaching out to people to recruit for TA positions. They may have some suggestions about not only names, but also the best process.
And I agree with Karen. I think that's a good idea. I think in the very short term, whereas the town administrator will be gone at what?
A week.
Next Tuesday is her last day, I believe. Mary is wholly capable of keeping the boat going in the straight, in a straight manner. And so we're not in a real tough position right now. It's not like there's nobody in there that doesn't know how to do this and is very good at what she does.
But again, through the chair, if we collect all that information and ask people who are interested, and then we sit down very soon and look over all our options and the pros and cons of each person, and we also, I'm also concerned with, we also need the cost involved. What is our budget? We need to discuss numbers as well, because obviously there are some benefits going with an internal person that you can just maybe give them an extra stipend versus bringing in someone full-time or 3 or 4 days a week. But, so we have, I think, a challenge ahead of us, but we have many options, and I just want to make sure we look at all our options.
So we do have options, and I think to one of Ms. Spiewak's points, whether it's inside or outside, financially, the monies have already been approved to fund the position. So if we go outside, the money's there to pay for it. If we go inside, the money's there to pay for it at a significantly less number, a lower number.
David, three.
Mr. Browski.
Just to respond to David, Karen. So I won't be speaking out of school to say that I did float the idea to the chief.
Okay.
And he's not opposed to it.
Thank you for doing that. I think that was very proactive of you.
So through the chair, I guess, how do we want to approach this with getting the names of the internal people, and getting a list together, and then also, what's the next steps here?
The chair, I thought that's what we were doing tonight, to be honest with you. Meaning, I was perhaps under the false assumption that we were asked to basically come up with names and that we would potentially decision tonight.
That was the expectation I had coming in. If the board has different expectations, then that's fine.
And honestly, with, through the chair, I think this is a little premature. I know we have to move kind of quickly, but I want to make sure we're looking at all our options, because we don't know what we don't know. We don't know who may be interested in this.
That's fine. Well, I will caution the board, and keep in mind that in 1 week, you're not going to have a point of funnel point.
Yep.
That means you're going to have department heads that number in the teens, with the board of selectmen who number 5. You're talking in excess of 30-plus lines of communication, and I can almost guarantee you, if you put it off and you do not have an interim, even if it's an internal person, as that funnel point, you are leaving the town in a very delicate position where things could now get lost, fall through the cracks, and people have different lines of information, and that's dangerous.
Through the chair, I agree 100%. I had thought we were going to have this discussion tonight and come up with a plan of action going forward, so that in a week from now, we had a point person, because that's really what we need. We need a point person, and it would be nice if we had a lot of time to plan. We've had 3 months, and this is where we are. we were a little slow on this, folks, let's admit it. We should have had this settled, a good 30 days ago, but we didn't. And, that's on us.
What if we meet, through the chair, what if we gave it a week, met on the 3rd? Just to, again, if you,
No, I'm just saying,
I can-
anything that goes beyond, if that's the board's decision regardless, then come that night, if it goes beyond tonight, then I would caution this board
I
that
agree.
it better be prepared with answers and acceptances and terms, because now you've lost another week.
Through the chair.
Ms. Noble?
For 2 years now, I've worked with Mary, and there was a period of time this calendar year when I worked with Mary very closely over the summer. And in the interim, I know so long as she has 1 or 2 point people on this board that she can turn to on a daily basis, it can be functional. And I know this because I've lived it.
And that was my point. I think that, given what Karen brought up, next week we come to the table with all the names, that we can think of, that people say that they're willing to do this job, and then we move forward from there. Interim, and however we want to approach it, if you want to go, outside, we have 3 names, I know.
But I'm gonna tell you, I don't mean to interrupt you, John. If that's the route we're gonna go, then there's gonna have to be at least 2 dedicated members of this board that understand that they will need to be available 24/7.
Well, we could
Because
also.
that's what it is.
We could also meet in 2 days. I'm just saying, and I apologize, because I really didn't think we were going to pick someone tonight. I feel like I need more information, and I need to know what our options are. I am leaning towards going someone, I would prefer, I'll just say it, I think it's a good idea to go with someone inside who can hit the ground running, because they're already here. But I do think we need to know if others are interested.
Have a whole list, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
And I
then why,
think there needs to be a discussion.
So I guess how would we collect names?
Okay.
So names could either be emailed, they could be sent in to Mary to compile.
I think if a board member knows, has talked to somebody, and they know that the person is interested, I think that would be the thing to do, maybe send the names in to Mary.
And through the chair, perhaps we don't, I know one of my options was to reach out to the firm to help us find a candidate, but obviously, that's going to take a lot of time. Maybe we just reach out to them, to Rick, and ask him, did I get his name right?
Yeah.
Maybe we ask him about the process and what we're doing to see if he can recommend, make any recommendations, because they've been doing this for so long. Not necessarily for names, but just let them know what we're doing and regarding process, because as we know, the search firm is going to oversee the search committee and help guide them, so maybe they can help guide us.
Through the chair,
Ms. Noble?
I want to know who's going to be in charge on October 2nd, and I think the rest of the town does too. So that's a decision that we have to make tonight, folks. We have to make that decision tonight, who's going to be in charge on the 2nd.
So, through the chair,
Mr. McGrath?
I make a motion that in the absence of the town administrator, that we have Mary Devlin fill in as the acting town administrator until we come up with another person, and that we, as she has in the lurch before.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second for discussion. Through the chair.
And I think, just for what it is, I think this is just to get us to the process that we're trying to set up now, which is get names to Mary of people that we know, and, internally that are interested in doing this, and then take the load off of her that way.
You have a comment?
Yeah, just a brief one. I mean, really to Deb's point, and I thought it was said very nicely, we've had 90 days
Oh, yeah.
to do this. And and we have to fish or cut bait at this point. So I may be in the minority, but I absolutely believe that we should appoint Chief Maxfield, or at least enter into negotiations with Chief Maxfield. I mean, Mary's awesome, she's fantastic, but I think that the chief would be, at least for now, a better person to basically run the ship. And honestly, you know, in a month or two, if that changes, because he doesn't have the time or whatever, that's a different conversation. But again, we've had 90 days to figure this out. So, and I mean, to both your points, somebody needs to be in charge. I mean, for as much as we want to pretend that, or maybe that's a bad word, that this place just works, it doesn't. Somebody has to be the one at the end of the day that says yes or no. So again, no disrespect to Mary, because I think she is fantastic. My support remains with the chief.
All right, so.
If I'm going to add one comment on this, and
The chief never gets to talk.
I absolutely believe in Mary, and I think Mary knows exactly how I feel about her. However, I think that's a bad choice, not because she couldn't do it, but simply because right now, during this time of transition in town meeting, to take her eye off of those critical tasks,
Yeah.
I think would be a huge mistake.
That's
Right
true.
now, her focus is on this transition.
That's a very
and
good
town
point.
meeting, and she needs to stay focused on that, without distractions.
So may I, through the chair, with all due respect to Selectman Borowski, if we're going to pick someone, and I hope I'm not going to, I would recommend someone who has a very, and I want to preface this with, I have absolutely nothing against the chief. I think, you know, we'd be very good. But I think we would need to look to someone with a strong, who knows our finances inside and out, because that's critical. And I would recommend our finance director, and I did not want to say that because I have no clue if she would even want to undertake something like this. But to me, that makes the most sense. I think if you look to what other towns have done, I think you'll see that's what they do.
Through the chair?
But
There's no.
That's an excellent choice. But I would have to go back to what Chairman Singer said about town meeting coming up. And if anybody is gonna be working extra hours just to get ready for town meeting on the 8th,
And then budget
it's,
season.
and budget season, it's
Well, that being said, I will put this
phenomenal,
out there.
but I don't wanna overload you.
I have an idea.
Well, I'm just going
Go
to put
ahead.
this out there.
Okay.
I agree completely, actually, with Mr. Borowski and Ms. Noble. You're right, and I think the problem with many of our department heads who don't have, to your point, a full command staff behind them to help alleviate that load. Anything that we put on them now during the transition in town meeting and everything going on in this town, I can only think can only be viewed as a detriment to the town to take them off of those tasks. That's their priority. I agree with Mr. Borowski, and I will, but I agree with Mr. Borowski that, and Ms. Noble, I think the chief has a full command staff behind him that can help alleviate a lot of that load. And I think he could get the job done without being a detriment to the
So
department.
if I may, through the chair, I think I have a compromise, which may work out.
So
Oh,
through
let me just-
through the chair, can I do one thing first?
Uh-oh.
I'd like to withdraw my motion for Mary Devlin,
I'll
since,
withdraw my second.
okay, so that we get that off.
Which is fine, as I say, because we can have all the discussion, but we still have to have a vote.
Right.
But okay,
Right.
so the motion and second were withdrawn.
Yep.
So what I would like to recommend, trying to think outside the box, and to share job sharing. What if we picked two? What if we picked Chief Maxfield and a finance director? Because as we do, you know, Chair, you have the backup in case something happens or they're not around, and they could share the responsibilities. Again, I don't even know if if Donna's interested, or I'm assuming you said you did run it by the Chief
Yeah,
Maxfield?
he was,
But then
he
you
was not
have,
opposed.
then you have two, and they can work out the responsibilities moving forward and share them.
How do you do that with authority? You know, how do you split
Well,
that
one
with
could
this?
take the lead, but one could be the backup as well.
So
We
I-
can work, if we think it's a good idea, we can make it work, is my point.
So I think to your point and Mr. McGrath's, your point is valid. And I think it's important. Whoever, whether it's the chief or anyone else, who may fill a role of an interim, again, I'll go back to, I think that if we do enter negotiation with any department head to take on this role, we'd have to be very specific. It's for 2 months, it's for 3 months, and that's it. And if we do not have the feel from the consultant that it's going to be done by then we have to look outside. Because I don't want to have a department head in the position of interim TA for an extended period of time. That is also, and I think from people I've spoken to in the business, also a recipe for disaster. That being said, I think if you have that one point of contact, you already have that give and take and that work with the advice of the department heads. That's the whole point of the department heads. But it gives this board of selectmen that one point of contact, that funnel. And as I mentioned at department head meeting, the bottom line is, we have the utmost faith in our department heads. They can do their jobs. But as much as they can do their jobs, we can't afford to have 30 to 40 to 50 lines of communication going on. There has to be one point of contact, if nothing else, to act as a funnel to this board.
David?
Mr. Borowski.
Yeah, just like a brief statement. I mean, let's be candid with one another and the audience. I mean, obviously, we all knew this conversation was going to happen eventually, and it was going to be controversial.
And we've been avoiding it.
Yeah, and the reality is that we're all going to have our preferred pick.
Right.
That's not saying anything negative about anybody else. Question is, can we compromise to count to 3? I mean, that's our standard political joke. You can't do a thing unless you can count to 3. So, I mean, to me, I am happy to take a vote tonight, and then if it doesn't work, you know what? We can revisit it in a week or 2 or whatever. So, no, I believe me.
Mr. Boyer.
Mr. Chair, if I can speak without confusing things, I would like to be considered also for this interim position. I have not voiced it outwardly yet, because I didn't want to try and see like I was influencing anybody's decision, but if it is going to be discussed, I just want you to be aware that I am interested in it. I've had experience in multi-levels of working in this town, whether it be in your seat in front of the town meeting.
Planning board.
I've been on the planning board, I've been on the EDC, water sewer, and I'm a current employee department head. So I've been working with the consultant group, with Rick, to get my resume and cover letter together, and I have it ready to go. So if you are seriously considering appointing someone, I would just ask that you give me the time to submit that information and present myself for that position, so.
Pete, through the chair. Pete, I can tell you that you were absolutely one of my top candidates.
So I just like the ability to sit down, discuss, and answer some questions and present myself for that position. So.
And while I
Through the chair?
appreciate.
Just, sorry.
No, go ahead, I'm used to it.
Your name has been floated around town hall. It's no secret that you're interested, so.
So I just wanted to make sure, that's all, because I
That's fine,
haven't had
so
a
thank you for
discussion.
stating it publicly.
Okay.
It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
Sorry,
And so-
Mr. Chair.
No, and I will put this out there. I've known Pete a long time. And I do agree with Mr. Borowski. One thing I will caution, and to your point, because I've heard that Mr. Boyer may have been interested in the permanent position. And to me, if we're going to consider him for the permanent position, I wouldn't vote to put him in as the interim. Flat out, same position I took with fire chiefs, police chiefs, and even as a manager at my last company. I would never, and I never have, taken someone who was vying to own that position or win that position and put them in a position where they now have a distinct advantage of information, acting, everything else. From
Over
my
every other
experience,
candidate.
he's a wonderful candidate
Yeah, but
for the
then he would have
permanent
an
position.
advantage, but then he would have an advantage over everybody else.
Exactly, and I do have grave issue with that.
So hence my question.
He's a very- Everything he said is very true.
So with that, okay, we have Mr. Borowski's motions on the floor for Chief Maxfield.
Not technically, but I will say that now.
Okay. Is that
Yes.
your motion?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion and a second to appoint Chief Maxfield as an interim. Any discussion on that now?
I would just say to enter into negotiations with the chief, because he may very well, based upon conversations, even after hearing us tonight, say, you know what, I don't want that job.
So through the chair, this is why, again, with all due respect to everyone sitting at this table, I don't think it should be rushed. I think we need to find out definitely if he wants to do this or not. I would like to know if our finance director is interested. I would like more dialogue about Mr. Boria. And I say, we don't know what we don't know. We don't want to rush and get the regular interim, the full-time interim. I'm not, the full-time TA. But I don't think we should rush this either. I know the clock is ticking, but like John had said, Selectman McGrath, sorry,
That's all
that, you know, Mary can carry it for a little bit, a week, 2 days even. If we could do this, I think it's premature. With all due respect, I think this is rushed, and I don't have enough facts. That's all. So again, I say I have nothing against what you're
So-
proposing or Chief Maxfield.
I appreciate that. My opinion is this has not been rushed. And I'll actually paraphrase Ms. Noble. This board and every member of this board has known this was coming for quite some time. And shame on any member who hasn't been thinking about this for quite some time and already knew the options. There's a
Yep, go ahead.
there's a very specific reason why I said what I said, took the positions I took, made the supporting or disagreeing comments, because I have been thinking about this for an extended period of time, and I would have darn well hoped everyone here has. So to me, and I'm just one, this is my opinion, nobody has to agree, but to say I need more time, that this is rushed, I think is disingenuous. We've had ample time for every member of this board to think about what our options are. This board was directed at my request, which I will specify, request, to have given this thought before tonight so that you would be prepared to have this conversation. So to say this is rushed means you ignored the request to be prepared tonight, a direct request to be prepared to have this discussion. It may not go everyone's way, I get it, right? I have the utmost respect for Donna, for Mary, for Mr. Boria, for Chief Maxfield, and I think Pete is a great candidate and should be considered as a great candidate for the permanent, which is why I wouldn't put him in the interim. I've said my pieces. The bottom line is, I think you have so many strong opinions here. People are going to argue the points to death, but the bottom line is, this is not a surprise to anybody. And let's be crystal clear about that. So that being said, we have a motion and we have a second. We should have respectful discussion about that. I would make a request of that, to amend that there's a time limit on that. I go back, and again, you made the motion in the second, and you have that right to leave it as is. But I would request that you put a time limit on that of 60 to 90 days, period. Because I truly believe that it is not in the town's best interest to have a department head in an interim role for any extended period of time. That come that time period, if the chief, who's been motioned and seconded, actually met with us and agreed to do this, that there's a time limit, and if we don't know from the consultant that within that period of time, this is going to end, and we're going to have a final candidate, that this board has to accept the fact that we need to start at least 30 days in advance of that term expiring to get an external candidate in here. That would be my request of the two of you. You don't have to do that.
And if I may just address what you mentioned. Yes, we all knew we should be thinking about it, and I have no issue with making decisions, but the part that we're rushing is this part now. You just don't throw names out without, what are we basing? Collectively, we haven't had a dialogue about the candidates in depth. I get it, but yes, we knew, but this is what we do, right? Together, we pick someone, we interview them, or we talk about the pros and the cons. So that's the part that seems rushed to me. Of course, I've been thinking about it for a very long time, but I didn't realize we were just going to come in tonight and pick someone. That's all.
So I think part of what we've done tonight, though, and
But
to
I'm ready to move forward.
No, but to respond to Ms. Hurak is exactly that. We've had that conversation, and we did it in a public forum, not private, right? We did it in full view of the public. We had a conversation. We expressed our beliefs, our positions, our opinions as to whys, the no's, the yeses, the strengths, the weaknesses, the various decisions, in full view. So we can leave, we have a motion and a second, If no one wants to amend it, that's fine.
To the chair, I will happily amend it to say no later than 12/31/2019. So basically through end of year.
So if we don't have word from the consultant by, say, November 1, giving us a full month notice that we will not be ready, we will negotiate with that person. If they don't want it, someone else. But the bottom line is, we'll have a full month's notice that we need to go to an outside intern.
Can you repeat your motion, please, through the chair? Just, it's this one.
I'm not sure I agree with like everything you said, Mr. Chairman, but basically, my motion would be, is that we enter into negotiations with Chief Maxfield to have him act as the interim TA with an expiring date no later than 12/31.
Of 2019.
Of 2019, I'm sorry.
And I'll
yes.
amend my second then to that.
So we have an amended motion and a second, and I won't try to interpret it,
I'll just add that
because I'm not good at that.
I'm not convinced that we would have to go external if, in fact, if we had to go back out. I'm not saying that it would have to be the chief again. Maybe it is someone else internal at that point. But that's my only caveat. So I just want to be clear on
So
this.
the motion and second is to
Just-
enter discussions with Chief Maxfield to be
Period.
the interim TA for a set specified period of
Correct.
time.
Period.
And just a quick question, if he is not interested, I just want to know what Plan B is, because with our discussion tonight, we need to move forward.
So I think the plan, again, I'll put this out there, but if the board votes to move down this path with a majority vote, then I think it would make sense to set up a meeting ASAP.
Tomorrow?
With the chief, and find out if we can, A, did you still want this, and can we come to terms? If so, we're set. If not, then we call another meeting, we post for another meeting, and we go down that chain.
Okay. That's fair.
And again, if this fails now, then honestly, we can go back to the drawing board and figure out something else.
Okay.
Any other discussion, comments?
Nope.
Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you, Karen.
But let's be honest, that was one of our better discussions since.
Don't jinx us.
No, it's true.
no, it's
No,
good.
Can we yell now?
No, I mean-
You can yell now, but I like that we
Okay.
do it, I like that we do it in
Yeah.
public.
We don't always have to agree.
We're not gonna always agree.
Yeah, I mean, that's healthy.
It's never going to happen.
Exactly, right, but we do it in public,
Sorry.
we do it professionally.
You're right.
So, we've lost Ms. Craver.
Where did she go?
She stepped out of the room to be
She might
polite.
have been part of the discussion.
Oh,
Anya has to go home. Okay. Did you get all that, Deb? It was a
Are
long
you tweeting?
conversation.
Are you still, can you still only report on certain things?
Ms. Craver, could you please reach out to Chief Maxfield, we've had a unanimous vote
Oh,
to schedule, well, to meet with him. ASAP, we'd like to meet with him in the next 24 to 48 hours. To meet with him in the executive session to confirm, are you actually still interested in this?
not sure what to say about
Come to terms, if you have to know if he does, and if he can, great. If not, we're gonna have to schedule another meeting to discuss other options. So if you would, please reach out to him ASAP, we need to meet with him.
I'm actually fascinated.
Okay, moving on. I gotta get home.
We will go on to BOS committee reports. Are there any?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
So BOS policy review, we have one, Ms. Craver, lowering of flags.
Yes, sir.
Page 158.
A board member was notified by a resident that the flags in front of Town Hall had not been lowered to half-staff in honor of 9/11. That resident also made the office aware of this error, as well as he lowered the flags himself in front of the Town Hall and library. We'd like to apologize for this erroneous error on our part. The employees have been so focused on trying to get everything back to where it was from the malware, it just got missed. Chairman Singer asked that we place this on the agenda. We reviewed the selectmen policies, and currently the board has flag authorization in mourning for designated municipal officials. Other times, we are notified by the state by email that the flags need to be flown at half-staff and for the purpose. In viewing the state's website for flag display, I would offer the attached policy to be adopted. which would replace the current flag authorization in mourning for designated municipal officials.
Thank you, Ms. Craver. And I will point out that while I certainly asked for this to be on the agenda, it was at the request of Mr. Borowski. Well, he should get credit for this, and I agree with him that it should be on the agenda, and it never should have happened in the first place. And one thing I will point out is that this town has, again, I'll go historical, in the past, not relied upon the state to be our guide of what's right. And I think that going forward, this town should continue to follow that course and not rely on the state to determine what's right. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, through the chair, I don't know if we actually needed a formal policy on this. I think it was just more of a discussion to let everyone know that, look, a mistake was made, we're really sorry. It obviously was not intentional. You know, and basically just to talk through it and say, so let's just figure out how to do this on a go forward. So, if we need a formal policy, you know, that's fine. I think it's just more of a, you know, again, let's apologize, let's just figure out some way that it doesn't happen again. But, I think the policy that you put together, Robin, is fine, so thank you for that.
I think that, and actually kudos would go to Mary for taking a look and putting this together. I think part of the missing was that we have relied on the governor to let us know, and we did not receive any notices from the governor. Now, that could have been because our email was down because of the cyberware. So I can't say why we didn't get something from the governor. I'm not even sure if they sent anything out. So I think that the policy is helpful because then all the buildings, because it's not just town hall, you have library, highway, other buildings that have flagpoles. So I think the consistency would be helpful, and that this way they would know, you know, to set their calendar and make sure that they lower their flags.
So, through the chair.
Mr. McGrath.
I make a motion that we adopt the flag policy that the town administrator has put forward.
Second.
And a big thank you to Mary.
And thank you.
Thank you, Mary. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this policy? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And thank you again, Ms. Craver, for that. The next item on the agenda is the town administrator's report. Ms. Craver?
Yes, sir. First, I'd like to let you know that Governor Charlie Baker today declared a state of emergency regarding vaping, and he has banned all vaping and vaping products immediately. Our Board of Health is out letting the establishments that have vaping products for sale know that they need to remove them from the shelves. This is a 4-month stay while they look at it, so it's not a permanent ban, but I do believe that there's a lot of people that are hoping that it turns into permanent. So I think that that's important to let you know right away. Review of FEMA in 2019 Quinebaug watershed floodplain maps. I'm not going to go through all of this. I'm just going to let you know that there is a meeting coming up scheduled to go over the floodplain maps, and Carl Ekman, our emergency management director, will be attending. Route 169 booster station activation approval. We've received that it has been approved. There are some things that Southbridge and Charlton need to do. There's also a opening groundbreaking that will happen shortly. Green Communities Grant, we have been notified by the Department of Energy Resources Green Communities Division that the town of Charlton has been awarded $211,000 for the following proposed projects in the town, and I'll round it up. $48,000 for the library LED lights, $58,000 for town hall replacement of LED lights, $94,000 for wastewater treatment plant, which is variable frequencies, drives, motors, and blowers, and $10,000 for the town for administrative and technical assistance. The official grant award announcement was held September 17th. I'd like to thank Kara Hamilowski, Tom LaRose, Peter Boyer, and Kurt Meskis for their work on this. As this is my last meeting with the board for the town of Charlton as its town administrator, I would like to thank the board, the residents, and the employees for allowing me this wonderful opportunity. The town should be pleased with the staff we have and their dedication to Charlton. I have enjoyed my time here and many things we've accomplished. I confess Charlton has been my second home for the last 13 years, and I've met so many wonderful people that I will truly miss. Regarding the near future, I'm growing excited to become a grandmother for the first time, and I wish everyone the best.
Congrats, Rob.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Rob.
Wish you the best.
Not yay that you're leaving, yay that you're gonna be a grandmother.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
Welcome to the club.
Thank you.
So the next item would be other business. I have one item under
Okay.
other business unknown at the time of posting. And I'm going to be very careful, I think, in how I phrase this. I did receive a request today, so it was kind of last minute. It's time sensitive, and this is to approve minimal monies for legal fees. And I want to caution the board that this is simply a conversation around approving 1 hour of legal time for the planning board to get a public opinion from the attorney of their choice. I will caution you that information has been shared that contains attorney-client privilege. No one here can discuss it, reference it, allude to it. That is attorney-client privilege. So this is simply a request to get a written public opinion from an attorney on behalf of the planning board, and they would like to choose to use their own attorney, for which they're saying it would be 1 hour of time, that's it. So that being said, it's up to this board to decide. We have counsel. Does this board want to stick with its own counsel to get a public-facing opinion, or does this board want to approve them choosing their own counsel to get their own attorney, the planning board attorney, to get a written opinion for one of their matters? I'm being very
So I think one of the things that you
vague
can
on
say,
purpose, because we have to be.
I think one of the things you can say, just to add a little more clarity, is that you have an opinion by an attorney that the planning board does not agree with, and that they would
So,
like to get
I would-
that
I would ask you to
opinion
stop right
reviewed.
there. Honestly,
That's
Ms.
all.
Fair, I think you've already gone too far.
Okay.
That should not have been said. The fact of the matter is, we have information which is attorney-client privilege.
Mhm.
Should not be disclosed or even alluded to, which you did. And I think that is,
I
I'm going to ask you not to
I'm
comment.
not gonna comment anymore.
Please do not. And I don't want anyone else to comment, because the whole point is not to go down that road, not to jeopardize attorney-client privilege, and not to prejudice decisions. The bottom line is, planning board would like to get an attorney to give a public-facing opinion. And they have the right to ask this board whether this board wants to approve it or not approve it, and that's fine.
Through the chair.
Ms. Noble?
Do we have any staff here at Town Hall who are qualified to research and render such an opinion regarding this matter?
I don't believe so, because they are looking for a legal opinion.
Has this topic been fleshed out before by an attorney, and do we have that attorney's opinion?
So, again, I will simply say that we've had conversations with an attorney.
Mhm.
I won't go into details, because if I go into detail, I believe it would violate attorney-client privilege.
Okay. As I said, I'm just wondering if this has come up before,
Fair question.
It has come up before.
and did we
I'll
get an
leave it-
attorney opinion on it?
That I won't go down. I think that would divulge and disclose attorney-client privilege, whether we did or didn't.
Then I
We have had
I
conversations.
can't vote on this.
I
I'm
would say
sorry.
we had the conversation. I would say we've had conversations, and there are ongoing conversations.
I'm going to look to you.
Okay, I'm really, if, that's my question, if, I just want to know that we are not duplicating efforts. That's my big thing. Okay, I
Yep.
don't want to have duplication of effort, because that's a waste of money. If we already have it,
Yep.
that's what I want to know. And if you can't answer that, I get it, just means I'm gonna not vote on it.
Correct, and I appreciate your position.
Thank you.
And I hope you understand that
Absolutely,
attorney-client privilege, I think, precludes us from having that conversation.
no problem. You know where I
Mr.
stand.
Borowski?
So I think I may even know what this is, but that being said, it's 1 hour, right?
1 hour.
One hour. and again, let's be candid, because I think it's important for everyone to realize this, that the relationship with the planning board over the past X amount of months has not always been the most amicable. What I would say is an extension of giving an olive branch, that I would make the motion to approve the 1 hour. However, I hope that this is not a habit.
I'll second it.
So
Discussion.
for discussion, I'd like to know what the hour would cost. This can, Ms. Ridlock.
Oh, Patsy, I didn't see you.
I just want to, this was also. She needs to come up
Patsy,
here.
Patsy,
Could you
come
come
on,
on
I'm
up,
sorry.
Patsy? Or Mr.
Thanks.
Benson, is Mr. Benson?
Somebody-
Whenever I go up here, I always, like to do that, yeah. So, this was discussed in open session, so I get the attorney-client privilege stuff, but it was a discussion that was actually had in open session, and when Mark was there, he actually informally answered the question at the meeting. We just weren't recording. It was kind of a random thing I threw at him.
And just to caution you again, where you're going, I think is fine, because you're only referencing a public discussion, not attorney-client privilege information that was shared with you.
So, I mean, honestly, on the planning board, it's pretty black and white what the answer is. But we can already see that the applicant was kind of,
So I'm going to try and, again, we don't want to
okay,
prejudice
so
anything.
Mark said that it would be under 500.
So under 500, that's a lot for 1 hour.
Not for
I
him,
mean,
it's
it's Mark
not.
Bobrowski.
But through the chair, just this I believe I can ask. You're referencing Mark. Can you just tell us a little bit about his background, just so people understand?
Mark Bobrowski, he wrote the zoning act. When I asked him the question, he was kind of surprised that I had to ask him the question, because it was so very basic, something that we do all the time. And I think that the other analysis that we got, which you're referencing, the other attorney thing, looked at the wrong
So-
facts. If
So
that makes any
I'm
sense?
going to again
So-
caution you not to have that conversation and not to disclose whether or not conversations may have happened.
So do we have a motion, a second on
We have a
this for
motion and a
500
second.
bucks?
Not to exceed $500.
Yeah.
So we
I
have a
think
motion and a second.
it'll prevent later issues. And I also have heard through in a butter that they're
So
looking
again,
at.
I'll ask you to be very vague and stick to the
Okay, so I'm
funding.
looking, so I know that the abutters are looking to hire an attorney, and I think that to spend 500 up front, to have a black and white from, written up by Mark in front of us, will just kind of make everything simpler.
May I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Is this a document that we'll be able to use in the future?
It's just going to
I'm looking to this as an
emphasize.
investment.
I think
Is
to
this
Ms.
an
Knowles-
investment?
Yes.
Right, so I think to
It's an
Ms. Knowles'
investment
point is
in
that this would need to be
liability.
a public-facing, publicly disclosable document that
Yes.
the town could use to defend or whatever its positions.
It would.
Okay.
If it's something that the town can utilize in the future to mitigate any additional potential litigation,
It would have to be a public-facing and
Then I
publicly
would
usable
say-
document, sure.
Well, it would be an opinion on a rule, I'm sure it's on a regulation or rule.
It's on the freezing.
no,
Yeah.
don't talk about it.
But that's a general.
No,
It's-
so
But that's fine. So
Yeah,
we have
I
a
know-
motion
I know.
and a second,
Yeah.
Not to exceed 500.
not to exceed $500.
And it's something that the town can utilize in the future,
Yeah.
so it'll
That
be an
would be as
investment.
That
As
would
a
be a
reference
publicly
document.
accessible document, correct.
All right.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
I've already gone over our next meeting announcements.
David, I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Bobrowski.
These are very brief, I promise.
I've heard that from you
No,
before.
these really are. So I think a lot of us received either queries around sidewalks and/or there's a problem over on littering on A.F. Putnam Road. Like,
Yes.
I'd like to put that as a sliver for us to at some meeting in October, November, let's talk about what can be done. So
Okay.
that's one, again, brief thing. Stop signs, this is kind of like old business, so at that meeting that we were at for the Civilian Traffic Study Committee, that, do you remember when they mentioned that one of the stop signs that are LED, it's not working? Well, come to find out, it probably won't be covered under warranty because there's a belief that it may have been hit by a truck, which would void the warranty. Now, here's the even worse part. To fix it, it's gonna cost, at least from my memory, is approximately $1,800. So, when we think around LED lights in the future, I think we need to now start to have an honest conversation around, is it a good return on investment, knowing that we may very well have to replace these a lot? So, I think that's a conversation that we don't need to have tonight, but.
Well, to your point, whether it's an accident or a truck hitting it, or even look at half the stop signs on streets I know that have been vandalized and spray painted.
Correct.
Every time we have to repair one of these, it's gonna cost $1,800. It's gonna become very cost prohibitive very quickly.
There are some things that you can do so that the trucks, this is the one, that's Stafford Street?
Yes, correct. That's
And
it.
it's the one that's coming from, when you're coming from Ronnie's, coming
Correct.
towards the city.
Exactly
So my suggestion would be for Jerry to maybe take a couple of Jersey barriers, which he has, and put them around the sign, you know, however he's gotta do it. If I remember correctly, there's plenty of room there.
Yeah, there should be.
And if somebody hits the Jersey barrier before they hit the
Yep.
sign, there's gonna be an accident report, so.
Yeah, all it would take would be two. on a
So
full day.
and Jerry's very good at, especially guardrail hits.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
ARP, you know, accident recovery program, so.
But we may want to talk about funding at some point. And the very final thing, and Robin, I'm hoping that you can help me through this with David, is that some members have reached out to me from the Charlton Housing Authority. I think there's either a policy, either officially or unofficially, for those who are not aware, and Deb, maybe you can help me on this, is that housing authorities, by their very nature, are not town boards. Rather, they are state boards. Historically, my understanding is that we've always allowed them access or promotion on our town website. And I believe there's been discussion now that because they're a state agency, that we aren't going to allow them to have a lot of information on our town website, but rather just post meetings. Unless it's illegal, I would like to, again, extend olive branches to our partners and say, can we, with the board's pleasure, again, as long as it's not illegal, to basically allow them to keep their information on the town website, because most people don't even know that the housing authorities, especially the Charlton Housing Authority, is not a Charlton board. So, anyway, that was it. I'm hoping that the board agrees with me on that.
I think it's a
We
good
just put it
idea.
on our next agenda,
If you would, please, I think it should be, and let Mary know to do that. I
and
think
I'll
it's a
bring
good
more
idea.
information about it.
Even if they're not an official Charlton,
Yeah.
board, whatever, they're a service to this community. The information should be.
I want to help them out as best I can. put it that way.
If we could put that on our next agenda, I'll reach out to the executive director there, I know her, and I'll bring more information about it for our board at the next meeting.
And Rob, if you would, please let Mary know to make sure that goes on the next agenda. Thank you.
And for the record, that was fast.
No problem.
It was
fast.
Impressive.
Okay.
So is there any other business another time of posting?
Nope.
So I'll repeat the special town meeting, Tuesday, October 8th, 2019, with a pre-meeting at 6 PM, town meeting at 7 PM. Board of Selectmen special meeting, Tuesday, October 15th, 2019, at 6:30 PM. Next BoS regular meeting will be Tuesday, October 22nd, at 2019, at 6:30 PM. There is the chance that there will be additional meetings. We've had a lot of those, so there may be additional meetings scheduled over the next week or two. And if they are, they will be posted as well.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Borowski.
for executive session, who's coming in with us?
You'll have two crews. First, you will have Donna and Deb come in for number 5, and then number 6, you will have a different group.
Do we have a name?
You have an agenda in front of you in your packet. So, did you go into executive session yet?
Not yet.
You have two purposes. Okay.
You have to have the motions to go into executive session and the vote.
Sorry.
This is
You have it in
backwards.
front of
We
you?
just-
Well, I see 5 and 6, though. I just see number 3 on mine.
Read number 9 on the agenda, to give you the motion, I think.
Right, but that's just number 3. Did you say something else, Robin, or am I mistaken?
Yes, she did.
There's only two. No, there's to discuss strategy with respect to litigation regarding the LNG
Yep.
and data security, cyber.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
I-
number
I-
3 and number
Legal
5 then.
advice.
So put number 3.
Yeah.
On the agenda, she's saying number 3 and 5.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you
That's
meant
okay.
reason.
No,
number
no,
I'm
no,
sorry, I
no,
was
no.
talking
Reason
about
number
two.
3.
That my fault.
It's just reason
All right.
number 3.
I'm telling you
So,
that's right.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to enter an executive session under MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21, Number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, LNG, and data security legal advice. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, I'd also obviously like to invite in Donna, Deb, and the LNG committee
At the
At the
appropriate
respective
time.
times.
at the correct time.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second.
The
Cybersecurity is first.
cybersecurity should be the
Cybersecurity.
shortest.
So that being said, we'll do this by roll call vote. Ms. Spiewak?
Aye.
Mr. Borowski?
Aye.
Ms. Noble?
Aye.
Mr. McGrath? Chair votes aye, motion carries unanimously. We're now in executive session. We'll come out of executive session to conduct any required or necessary public votes for actions and then adjourn.
Yeah.
I'll be back in 1 second. Thank you.
Sign off.